Hello, friends, and welcome back to SendouQ Season 11 Finals. I am Popgun, aka Toma, joined by the Falco Flyer, and we got a doozy of a tournament for you. One that has already resulted in one team being eliminated before round one even started. Falco, we got 15 teams. The format's been flipped on its head. Give us a sense of what we're looking at here, please.
Yeah, well, in case you didn't know, the last team to check in automatically gets disqualified. No, that's not what happened. Starting with 16 teams. Yeah. Just down to 15. But hey, a pretty structured format with groups going into a top cut. There was supposed to be 4 teams per group. You play every team in your group, and then the top 2 teams in that group make the single elimination top cut. But down to 15, one of those groups now has 3 teams. But of course, these are following along the teams who have been playing in SendouQ all season long. It's to no surprise who the number 1 seeded team is. It's in this entire tournament by the name of Snails, or PXG if you prefer. But what is at stake today is a $500 prize pool. First place $400, second place $100, and the top 3 teams will qualify for Global Gauntlet number 2. Popgun, you may know a little bit about the Global Gauntlet series.
Yes, and I'm more than happy that there's only one qualifier this time around, and this event is going to be one of them. Yes, no PXG technically. Snails is the team going on here, and it's funny because anytime you DM Gray saying like, hey, we need your PayPal because we need to give you prize money, which we've gotten very accustomed to doing with Gray here at IPL. Gray's response is usually, I'll see you in 3 more months when the next event comes around. You can just send it to me right back then and there. Jordan not playing with them today. That's why they're not PXG and why they're Snails. My working theory is that because FT Win still has 3 weeks they need to play in the Splatoon 3 North American League, and there's only 3 weeks left, that you're probably going to see FT Win just cram out those other events, which is going to be going on later today. But yes, that is going to be the team to beat. Before we get to that team, though, we got to see who's going to be the challengers. And we're going to start off with 37 Sexy Boys team number 2, the reigning Division 1 champions, taking on Poltergeist.
Yes, Poltergeist, accustomed to a lot of Dapple Productions events, the weekly warriors, if you will. We're going to hop right into game 1 here, taking a look at Poltergeist's comp. Then 37 handsome or sexy boys. I almost said handsome just because that's what they signed up for the NA League before. But like you said, defending Division 1 champions. We have solely on the Squiffer. That's really the only thing that's jumping out to me right now as far as unconventional weapon choices, but we know they're so strong with it.
This is the least handsome comp I think you could come up with here. By the way, that is Nightmare, who is known for the X-Blosh on the Tri-Stringer this time around, instantly getting canceled by Poltergeist as they try to find ways to start pushing up here. But you do see Crab coming out from both sides with the splash.
Yeah, it's going to be Poltergeist who's taking the first hit there, trying to take control of the zone. They're going to be quickly backed up, though. 37 Sexy Boys taking some control. Fishy's going to get a nice pick there, trying to find their way back in. Sully, the front-line Squiffer player, who's not afraid to be gutsy, going to help take down some of the players with the bubbles and the support of the chumps. But in true Splat Zones fashions, neither team is holding a soul to lock it at the beginning.
Why the Squiffer, though? I mean, I know you kind of alluded to it a little bit, but why the Squiffer? That's something you just never see ever. Now, it is a one-hit kill if you are able to find a connection with it. It doesn't have the greatest amount of range, but you can get a lot of shots off with it. But in conjunction with the Tri-Stringer is a bit of a... to say it's unconventional is a disservice to the term unconventional. So how are they going to use it right now to break out of a lockout? They only got Chumps and Bubbler to work with to go with the Crab.
Yeah, 2 big bubblers at that, actually. So the Squiffer and the Blaster will provide the bubblers. So really not a lot of lethal specials. It's just going to be the Crab, but they're going to have to find a way to break back in because Poltergeist is having solid control of the zone with the strikes. Triple Splash Down coming in as well. They're going to put Sully into a corner. They're going to have to retreat, jumping right back to their bubble. And we'll see if 37 Sexy Boys can make a name for themselves trying to break back in, but with a lot of players down, no penalty points going their way. Poltergeist holding strong so far.
And they're probably going to get the KO right here. Your anchor player getting eliminated. You lose the bucket in the process, but you got the crab working around the right snap. You got the pencil on the left, and that's going to be enough to hold on there. As Poltergeist, I'm not sure if that's the comp they were expecting to come out from the enemy team, but they dealt with it expertly, taking care of business in game 1 of this Splat Zones only best of 5 match.
Yeah, Poltergeist held out pretty strong at the beginning, but I want to talk about that double bubble comp too, because again, we just don't see it very often. Typically, you're going to have some sort of lethal special combination on zones. A lot of players will throw a triple ink strike in tandem with a Booyah Bomb to get a cap, but double bubble works really well when you're doing well in a lockout, but 37 Sexy Boys never even got to a situation where they could have a lockout where the bubbles were really coming in handy.
It's that special coordination that you're looking for, and it has to line up just perfectly for you to get that double bubble in like key spots to completely block out an enemy team. But it also kind of relies on the enemy comp working out as well. Like if you're going up with a melee weapon that's just going to run into the bubbler and say, "Nah, you're stuck in here with me. I don't really care that you got these bubblers out here. You're still stuck with the Swiffer." So it could have worked out in theory, but never was able to find a way to start setting up and get into position that they wanted to be. Now, game 2 is going to be Mahi Resort, and this is where we look at the 37 Sexy Boys and we say, was that just a Mako Mart thing that you're rolling out there? Are you going to go back to the X-Splosh at some point? Are you going to use the Snipe Rider that we would be expecting you to be using? Like, what is the adjustment that you're going to make? I mean, you already used that thing at Mako Mart. Whatever that was, you tried it. Is that who you are going forward? I would assume the answer is going to be no.
Yeah, I don't know, because you have potentially 4 more stages to work with, but when you mention Explo, I do think it seems a little bit more viable on Mahi. We'll take a look at the comps though, because I'm just as curious. I don't think they would stick with the double bubble. I can't imagine you're going to want to run that throughout your entire series here in the first round, but we'll take a look here. They have they're running it again. Yeah, Fishy and Sully's still running bubble comps, but Nightmare is running the custom Explo to give some splashdown. No more chumps coming out.
So this is the weapon that we have known Nightmare for, and when you're paired with that Swiffer, it kind of allows you to be a little bit more aggressive with it when you need to be. Kind of like Victor Wimbayama, you can play the center position, but you can also play at the top of the key if necessary. So that's what they're going to have to see out of Nightmare, that flexibility being used at the key spots.
Yeah, and now we have OU staying alive there in the zone. Again, with the blaster, it's so hard when you don't have a lot of paint in front of you, but they're making the most of it. Going up, getting a splat right before the triple splashdown. We'll see if they can get another one, trying to get some chip damage on Nightmare. Able to do it. So this is where Poltergeist can finally have a stronger opening than they did before. Again, on Mako Mart, it was a little bit slower, but Poltergeist looking very comfortable so far.
Creating the lockout situation necessary. And now it's up to the 37 Sexy Boys to use specials. And more importantly, they're able to do this without getting specials. They got a triple splat, and now they hold on to that bubbler, so they're using it on the back right side. That's not going to help you now in this lockout scenario. And you also got double splashdown. Oh, no. You got another bubble ready to go and a splashdown. So credit to them for breaking out of the lockout without having to use their specials. That's going to allow them to eat up a good chunk of points on this push, unless it doesn't. Never mind.
Yeah. Oh, Poltergeist. Yeah. They broke back in pretty strong there, but I don't know. Sexy Boys are hoping that it would last a little bit longer and the few displacements being thrown out there. But Poltergeist is they've been doing such a fantastic job, again, getting a lot of paint in front of the zone too. And we see these crabs trying to be the weapons that are making the break open. They're typically the first ones down, pushing in. They're hoping they can get 1 or 2 splats, or at least give some paint to lead out the team. Sully's going to go down. The bubble's not going to help them out staying alive. And Poltergeist now down to no more penalty points. A few of their players going down, but lucky for them, so are Sexy Boys going down as well. So Poltergeist can hold on a little bit longer. They may be victorious. There's
nowhere for this X-Splosh to go. They're kind of stuck in one spot. They managed to land the splashdown, but Here comes the flanks around just a little bit too late, and you can't out-turf that in mid. Game 2, going to Poltergeist. And Falco, we've been alluding to this double bubbler comp that they've been using, they being the 37 Sexy Boys, in conjunction with the splashdowns. And it's, okay, you're using you're able to capture the zone without using your specials, but how do you maximize those special usage in order to find a way to create a lockout? That is something they really struggled doing on that one time they captured the zone. It's like, okay, you're going to put a bubbler somewhere, but then they're just going to throw an ink strike into the bubbler, and then all of a sudden that just evaporates. And you can slap the ground all you want like Donkey Kong. It's not always going to scare everybody off. So I still kind of question the specials that you're bringing to the table. How are they going to help you extend lockouts? We haven't seen them being able to do that so far, and they had a perfect opportunity to do it in that last game.
Yeah, they had a better chance at doing it this time around, or at least in Mahi than in Mako. But again, it seems like they're forced to use it more in a defensive position, where we know their goal is to use it well on offense. Again, using the bubble right below the drops, give your leverage players some more wiggle room, if you will. And yeah, Sexy Boys just haven't had that chance. But now for Zone's mincemeat, this would be, as often as this comes up, this would be the one where if I'm Sexy Boys, I'm probably going to figure out what we want to change, because these really have been pretty quick games from Poltergeist. And the easy solution that I can think of, or at least something you want to change, is which specials you're using. And so I don't know, not sold on the double bubble comp quite yet, but again, they know themselves better than we do.
And if they know the key spots that they can put down those bubblers and use them to their advantage on a stage like this, well, so be it. Now, the question is, who's got an E-leader in their back pocket that they want to bust out right here? Mincemeat Metalworks, this is what you get when you do splat zones only. These kind of stages pop up, and it just comes down to who is more prepared to deal with it versus the other team. And we're going to get a look right here. A must-win scenario for the 37 Sexy Boys, your reigning Division 1 champions. Can they pull something out here that would result in a victory? Going with the heavy in this time around instead of the X-Splosh, the Squiffer with the pin. This is well, if you were playing SendouQ, this might be what your comp ends up looking like, and how you feel about it is how you feel about it. But there's a lot of poking damage coming out here from those Sexy Boys.
Yeah, and the only special that is going to yield damage is the Wave Breaker from the heavy. There's no other lethal special. You just have Tacticooler. Yes, yielding damage, Wave Breaker. I did say that. So I love the support logic, but again, it takes the splats at first, and they're finally getting some here. This is their best opportunity, their best opening so far. That's going to be a very long delayed wipe, but you finally take control of the zone. All that happening, Poltergeist had control of the zone, and they're able to pick it up again just like that.
So they got a lot of poking damage that they can use on a stage like this that benefits the longer range sniper weapons. Fishy's got to really dominate, though. They got to put a lot of turf down for Fishy to use with, and Fishy's got to find a way to basically keep everybody safe and protected, and then they can just keep doing this tug of war back and forth here. The problem is, how do you find ways to start pushing up with the blaster on top of it, as well as Fishy's having a lot of difficulty trying to find ways. I mean, they're looking for that alleyway, and there's not a lot of spots in this stage to move forward, but they're constantly looking for it. It just might not show up until the last second.
Right, and I'll be the first to admit I don't know the best strategy on Mincemeat Metalworks or Splat Zones, but I imagine you're going to want to try and get Fishy up right by those grates and right by the ledges to make sure nobody can drop down. And Fishy's been doing a pretty good job staying alive and backing up when needed to, but again, it's hard with the support of the rest of the team. Again, when you don't have any lethal specials, it seems like Poltergeist, as soon as they get one splat, there's another splat that is coming right next to them too, and that's why they've had the lead this entire time.
And you can just stay along the ledges here. What are they going to do? They can't get you with those snipers. They can't get you with, I mean, they could probably make you jump with the Wavebreaker at some point, but it's really just coming down to not overextending here if you're Poltergeist. Make them bring their charger weapons into you in mid, and then you can throw hands on them on the right side as well. Yeah, this I think we might be close to being done here.
Yeah, I mean, I really wanted to see how Gritty Grizz, which is Captain Happy, by the way, I would love to see how they could shine, and right now there just really hasn't been any of that chance to do it, and the strikes are coming out from the end. No need to strike the zone. A lot of yellow paint there on the stage, so hey, this is the best of 5, and we're already done with it. So Poltergeist making very, very quick work. This one was probably the most dominant game out of them all, more than Macklemore, but Sexy Boys held on a little bit, held on for a decent amount during the second game, but clearly not this one, not a Mincemeat Metalworks.
It's just a tough kind of comp to use right there. I mean, I can see the mindset behind what they were trying to pull off, but at the end, it was just Poltergeist just being a little bit too good and recognizing, okay, this is what they're going to do. Let's not overextend into it. Let's just kind of guard the ledges. Let's make them drop down into us. Let's focus the blaster. And then what are they going to do at that point? So credit to Poltergeist, the weekly warriors who terrorize Dapple production events, coming together for a pickup here. They definitely haunted the Sexy Boys in that one, living up to their name.
Yeah, EasyMD and Apple, the other two teams in that group, and we got a peek to see how those scores are going on as well. But yeah, I would imagine this is the first set done for our rounds. Remember, we're doing 3 rounds of a group stage going into a single elimination top cut. All splat zones, all predetermined in the group stages. Counter picks coming on a little bit later, but not for us at least. So, but round 2. Oh, okay. So I was just seeing what our producer sent us to. We're not quite ready for that one yet, but I don't know. Do you think Sexy Boys will change from the double bubble comp against Apple and EasyMD? I would hope so, but I don't really know what the future holds for them.
I thought after that game 1 that they might consider some adjustments, and that didn't really come to fruition. The problem is they're in a group with EasyMD, who's arguably the best all-European team that we have right now. So you have to beat them and Apple at this point if you want to move on to top cut. But this is probably, for the 37 Sexy Boy team, this is just a good opportunity for them to get results or experience against some of these better teams that they're going up against, because they're one of those teams that's, yeah, we could win a weekly event, but we want to knock on the door of kicking the shins of the big boys. And this is an event for them to get an opportunity to do that. The real question is going to be Poltergeist and Apple, who is going to be playing a little bit later, because EasyMD 3-0'd Apple already, and they're moving on. Looking at some of the scores across the rest of round 1, because most of the other groups are not done. The most interesting thing right now is Healthy Diet Food Groups is up 2-1 over Doom Desire. Everything else is mostly a 2-0 at this point. Sun Eater is tied 1-1 with So What down in Group D. And Avengers is currently up 2-0 on King as well over there in Group C. Upcomers is going to be they're the team I'm the most curious about, because just earlier this year, we kicked them out of Low Ink, and they never even got a chance to play in Low Ink, but we banned them, and they were kind of like, hey, we feel like we should still be able to play for at least one more. And I was like, nope. And now here they are, not even half a year later, they're in the SendouQ finals. I'm assuming from grinding SendouQ and just getting a bunch of results along the way right there. But that's one of those teams where it's like, okay, now you're living up to your name of being the upcomers. What are you going to do with it? They're currently down 2-0 to the King Hatano Fanclub. And that might be, it might be rough for them to find a way to get a single dub over the course of this entire day. But they're one of the teams that have grown dramatically over the course of the year, and is I don't know, maybe they can take a game off somebody here.
Going from a big fish in a small pond to a small fish in a big pond pretty quickly. We know some teams will do that too, but I feel like there's Ludi seasons in between where you have I was Div 7, I played in low link, and now I'm Div 3, but the pace at upcomers and how they're playing is much stronger this time. I'm very interested in their comp too. You have three of their 5 players. I'm counting how many they have. Yeah, 3 of their 5 players all play Gal. So I doubt they run a triple Gal. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they do, but with Martinolo on the junior and Seal on the E-leader, I feel like that could yield a lot of damage too. You have a lot of pain output and you have some range. But I'm very curious to see how they're going to do, not necessarily against the teams in their pools, but more of their legacy and their future moving on outside of this tournament.
Upcomers are the reigning Div 4 champions, and a little bit of difference from the Div 1 champions of 37 Sexy Boys, but they won Div 4 by dropping only 9 games, including playoffs, the entire season. So we'll see what becomes of that. The next match that we're going to be taking a look at is King Hataro Fanclub versus So What. And we're a little bit of ways away before that one takes place because both those teams are still playing in round 1. King Hataro Fanclub is currently up 2-0 in upcomers. So What and Sun Eater, the one of the more polarizing teams that we have in the community, who's made their name in this event. I believe a couple of seasons ago when they took PXG to a game 5. Now or that might have been last tournament that they had 3 months ago where they were able to do that. So now they're back again, currently tied 1-1 with So What. So we'll be keeping an eye on that one coming up. As you look at some of the other scores that are pouring in from round 1, it looks like everybody's still kind of wrapping up here. And we might have some ways to go. So this what are we in stall mode right now, Falco? Is that what we're doing?
Hey, you know what? We've done it before, so I'm totally fine with that. No need to cut to break quite yet. But I was looking at for I think is it Sun Eater? Yeah, assists. I remember them on the Makashera days too, and how strong they were.
Oh yeah,
it's great to see them still thriving and playing very well. So yeah, that's definitely a team. The number 5 seed in this tournament. Now, again, the question is if any team is going to take down Snails PXG at the very end, because they have a 92% win rate whenever they play in tournaments on Sendo, which is astronomically high. That is, they're only playing in tournaments that are at their level. They're not playing in other tournaments where they know they could have a 100% win rate. So. And also that team, they've won like at least any combination of their members have won the last 5 iterations of SendouQ finals, I believe. I don't necessarily it's their same roster, but they've been winning and winning and winning and are clearly unstoppable right now.
If you look at the tournaments that Gray individually has won, and most of these other players are in that same kind of boat as Gray, you have to go. I'm scrolling down. The last tournament the Gray did not win that they signed up for was in the zone number 48, which was back in December of last year. Every other tournament, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 tournaments they've played in this year. They've won them all. If you don't include the, obviously the global gauntlet finals where there wasn't really a winner in that. But even then, they were the best team in the West to take matches and games away from multiple players multiple teams from Japan in that aspect. Not enough to where you can think, okay, they can finally win like an area cup or a crown cup or something like that going forward. But still, yeah, it would be more surprising if Snails didn't win this one. And you look at who's here. EZMD might be able to kick their shins a little bit. Maybe I don't know. I do know. That's it. It's EZMD that might be able to trip them up, or nobody.
Well, a score update for your all. Healthy Diet Food Groups and Doom Desire going to a game 5 right now. And remember, Jared is playing with Healthy Diet Food Groups. So don't turn away from this stream, but you guys can go check out Jared and see how they're going to do, how that game 5 is going to end up as well. Question for you, Popgun, with Jared on this Healthy Diet Food Group team, a team that I would say Jared primarily is much stronger than the core of that roster, is how much is this going to propel that team in this tournament?
So from what I'm looking at here, they got Eevee, they got Stam, they got Blopwire. So it's just what, ZYF who's not there in place of Jared. But yeah, I like seeing Jared playing with other teams. This isn't the same thing like Jared did in like Ludi, where it's like, okay, I'm playing with some +3 players and we're going to make a Div 1 thing and see what happens here. Like, Healthy Diet deserves a lot of respect because, like Sun Eater, after them, they were a team that really took a step up because of what they've accomplished in SendouQ tournaments in the past, where they've made top cut, where they were knocking on the door of being one of those top 4 teams coming out of groups. So this is a team, I mean, obviously not the overhyped Milky Way, because we don't have to do that, but this isn't a, oh, I'm going to go down and help out some of these like players lesser than me and bring them up. No, like, Healthy Diet has earned the respect of a lot of people. So them playing with Jared, going up against Doom Desire, they're going to a game 5 with that, because that is Lewis, Tan, 49er, and Bubbles that they're going up there.
Yeah, the game just started actually, like right now.
And that's Lewis of Tylines or Tylinez.
No, the name we can never figure out how to pronounce it during Ludi tonight. Yeah,
but it's funny because that Lewis has gone up against Jared in many tournaments leading up to Ludi, and I believe they did actually play against each other in the same Ludi season as well. So this has been like those two players have garnished a lot of history between each other, just by grinding in the tournaments leading up to things like this. And here they are playing again in another game 5.
Right, and another team we talked about too, we alluded to a little bit ago, was upcomers. They did lose their set 3-0, so King Hatano Fanclub did take them down. So upcomers, again, going from Division 4 win to being in this tournament to losing your first one 3-0. Still plenty of opportunities for them to try and play. And again, for some of these teams, I don't necessarily think it's about making top cut. Again, you pretty much have to finish 3-0 or 2-1 in your group to make the single elimination top cut, but more of the practice and getting used to it. But I think with the stress of not having really to deal with, well, counter picks when you're thinking of modes too, can kind of alleviate some of that stress. You just kind of are in the zone. You're in the zone for zones, figuring out what you want to do. So I think there's still plenty of good opportunities for the teams, even on the lower seeds.
And this is the first time, or the first season, where it's got bumped up to 16 teams. Obviously, only 15 are playing. One didn't check in, where it was 12 before. And much like the NCAA tournament, the more teams you add, it's not like you're adding in more teams that are capable of actually winning the doggone thing, but you're giving more teams an opportunity to say that they qualified for the event, and again, play against these top teams and get more experience against them. But not everybody's in that boat. Like EZMD, there's nothing for them to gain here other than making podium. Obviously, Snails, there's literally nothing for them to gain here other than prize money. Healthy Diet, like there's no if Healthy Diet doesn't make top cut, there's no like consolation prize for that. Like, that's for them, that would be a failure of an event.
And for Healthy Diet, it's too more about the experience of playing with Jared too in a formal competitive setting, outside of like a SendouQ, a traditional SendouQ match too. So I think it's good practice for all these players around anyways. But also, it's looking like, yeah, this one actually might be ending pretty soon here, with Doom Desire potentially getting the win. We know you guys can't see it, but again, pull up that second stream if you can, where Doom Desire looking like they're about to close it out. No penalty points yet. Giving you the play-by-play from Jared's point of view, by the way. Better than us restreaming his stream. We don't want to do that without his permission. So...
Well, I was owing Sun Eater going down. So what beat him 3-1. So okay. Sun Eater, one of those teams, again, they're in that kind of boat. It was like, okay, it's not a cute story that you're just here. Start racking up results. So what says, nah, we're going to put you in a little bit of a dangerous situation. 4 teams in that group, only 2 move on. And now we are going to be rolling into the... we are casting this one, correct? King Hanto Fanclub versus So What. Both 1-0. So What getting the more impressive win, a 3-1 over Sun Eater, who did... Sun Eater did make top cut of the last finals. Not only did they just push PXG to a Game 5, they actually walked their way through the rest of the group and made top cut here. But now they're going up against... King Hatano, who is... Okay, do I dare Google this?
I'll do that.
I'm going to.
Look at us mid-30-year-olds Googling who Hatano is.
No, King Hatano.
The first thing I see is King Hatano Fanclub 1 Golden Paddling Pool 370. The second link is the SendouQ finale right here. So... Kazutashi Hanatala, is that an actor? I think he's an actor. I don't know.
Actually, from the team themselves, King Hatano is Hatano, the Inkbrush Nouveau player who recently became the runner-up of Area Cup Crown number 3. So this shows how much we've been paying attention here. If they called themselves like King Lobster Fanclub, I think I could pick up on that. Or yeah, so this is a shout out to a Japanese player who became runner-up of Area Cup Crown number 3, and mostly this team is Frutella.
Yeah, right. That's what I was going to allude to. I want to talk about, too, you alluded to this a little bit for So What, getting that big win against Sun Eater, because we were even brainstorming what set we wanted to stream first before the broadcast, because I think we were going to stream one of the teams who ended up dropping. And when it came to Sun Eater and So What, you were pretty quick to shoot it down. You're like, nah, Sun Eater is going to take that one right away. But
no, I shot down Sun Eater versus Upcomers. That's what I shot down. Which should be a curb stomp, but I'll stand by that. But I'm scrolling through because obviously I got to figure out stuff about So What. What can you tell us about So What, Falco?
That's a song by Pink from 2009.
So what? Yeah. We're in SendouQ finals. I don't think they
got our Swiffer.
Oh wait. Their team. Okay, this performance may be a dice roll, is what they said about themselves. Are we really going to see an L3 from Glash? I doubt that. We'll see, but I doubt.
I would like to see one.
I mean, I would love to see one. I have heavy doubt that we will see something like that. Well, you know what? When I woke up this morning, I didn't think I was going to see Squiffer either on stream, but here we are.
Double bubble comp, yeah. That's true. But hey, starting off on Barnacle and Dime Zones, so anything's possible. A lot of French players here too. So Este and Glash, EBTV champions, and Jay is a former member of Vanguard, qualifying for Spot World Series 2025. They did not attend it, though, but they did qualify. And yes, so EBTV is our Esports Bros TV, which is a French organization. They've broadcasted a few Ludi sets, I believe, and they do a lot of their own tournaments as well. So definitely give them a follow if you can. They're a pretty good group.
The EBTV League is actually in the Loink rulebook. I think it's Div 2 that gets you banned from low ink. Everybody focuses on just the Ludi divs. No, the German league and the French league are in the low ink rulebooks as well. Also, Geku is a member of Squidding Good. Squidding Good is one of the oldest teams that has been around for a long time. Squidding Good almost qualified for the Ink TV League Resurgence tournament that took place a couple of years ago as well. So it's good to see some of these players still around. And
there's your L3.
Oh,
there's
are you serious?
Double nozzle nose, yeah.
Double L3. Okay, so one with the hammer, one with the inkjet. I forgot there was an inkjet. That's the new L3. So
glitters, yeah, the glitters L3 nozzle nose and nozzle nose D. Yeah, two weapons we rarely see. Not a lot of pain output, and it's just so hard to master this weapon. You pretty much have to be frame perfect on how you want to get your shots if you're firing rapidly, because it is really hard to master.
It's not like the H3 where you are just married to the shots that you fire out there. Like, it's a little bit more forgiving, but it just doesn't have the speed of a splatter shot or a splash that you can work with there. But yeah, if you are an aim god, you can connect with your shots. You can put down a lot of turf with that thing as well. You are just kind of slightly married to every shot that you take here. And oh, by the way, as if Inkjet needed something else working against it. How about a giant vacuum that literally just eliminates it from the stage? As King Hatano Fanclub, they're not big fans of this stage, are they? They just want to get this one over with and move on.
Yeah, as much as we're gassing up So What's comp, it's really King Hatano who's taken over. Not even a point on the board for So What. So again, the double nozzle, I don't know, that's one of those matches where you just want to say, let's not even think about this, let's just try another one. You don't even like really focus on your comp. You just think about how once you had one of your teammates go down, pretty much everybody went down. So that's hard to take away if you're So What, figuring out what you want to do and how you want to counter. Just not enough time to bring it all in.
Did they beat Sun Eater with that comp? Is that for real?
I don't know.
There's no way. There's no way with Ace's ink wall all over the place. They really, in an E leader they had to go up against, they just L3'd them to death. I have a hard time believing that.
I could see you working and then making the carbon get all the splats. You focus on the nozzle nose as the players, as the opponents, but then the carbon's going to be the one who comes in and gets a majority of the splats. I think that's a viable option too, but I don't think there were any times where So What had all four of their players alive and they were able to make anything happen in Hatano. It unfortunately just didn't happen that game.
Now, I don't know how many inkjets you can get with that L3. I'm assuming you can crank out a good chunk of them because we saw pretty much every time the inkjet was popped off, we were watching it. The problem is the inkjets weren't really able to connect with anything. At one time, there was just a vacuum right there. It's like, nope, you literally can't do anything because I'm just going to completely block you out and then fire a rocket right back at you. Inkjet, man, I wish Inkjet was better in this game. It benefited a lot in Splatoon 2 because you could combo it with Ink Armor. But man, it's such a high skill ceiling special where if you're really good at it, it was a nuisance to deal with in Splatoon 2. It's just got a lot of things working against it in this version of the game. Inkvac being one of them, as we just saw. And it also kind of depends on what stage you're on. Can you get those kind of heights? Obviously, there's no anchovy here where you can kind of cheese along the elevator wall. Can they use it in Flounder Heights, though? Are there some wall areas where they can get some extra height, get a little bit of distance from everybody, and start sniping down with the blaster shots of that? We'll see that going in here in the game, too. By the way, that roller, probably pretty happy with the first two stages rolling out here in the stage. Even though last one didn't work out, roller's going to be really good here too.
Plenty of opportunities to shark along those wedges. We say that carbon's coming out. Tri-slosher coming out from glass this time, so no nozzle nose, no L3, but we do have the glitters this time. So they're sticking with the inkjet, double inkjet this time around. And we mentioned about the height advantage too. It's great if you're doing the lockout, but if you're trying to break back in, it's going to be so tough because you might as well be eye level at the opponents when they're in the zone, and that is not where you want to be, especially if you're facing a weapon like a pencil or, okay, well, there's the wipeout. So there's a change there coming in. So that is a huge turnaround for So What with what they did. Guess what? They got a point. They scored more than they did in the first game.
So now what are they going to do with these two inkjets? They can pop them along. And you see the height difference that you can get along that left side right there. And yeah, it works both ways, Falcos. You're kind of pointing out how it's going to be difficult for them to break out of a lock of the inkjet. That's 100% correct. It's going to be a huge advantage for them using them here to create extended lockouts as well. You already got the high ground, and again, now you got this little extra to work with, but you got to connect with those shots. Oh, that should have been a dead squid right there.
Well, and that's why we just don't see Inkjet very often. I feel like the AoE from it, whenever it goes off, is just not as strong. You look at these shots, you're like, how did this not splat? Or how did I not two-shot this player? You know, that looked like a 3-4 shot, and they just didn't go down. That's what's so hard, and what makes these other specials much more viable. But Hatano able to get some picks. Now, they're going to have a lockout, too, and this is where I think So What might struggle to break back in. Their back is finally up against the wall, and they only got to 41 in their opening push, which is a lot, especially compared to how they played before. But against how Hatano has been playing, I think they're going to take the lead with ease.
You're going to need to find ways to connect with the Inkzukas. And while they're scrambling with that, then you can fire off these Inkjets. Because, yeah, you can really go from this right side here that gives you a little bit of extra height, but there's a vacuum going off at the perfect time, so that's out of the question. Now you got one coming around the left side. Excellent usage right there, but even then, you got somebody ready to go. There's the Tri-Slosher that's going to eliminate them immediately. Penalty point, well, they never had penalty points to begin with, and they might not get them, period. I don't see a way for So What to get back in here. They're trying to work around that right back side just to stall out the zone. It's not going to be enough. King Hatano Fanclub goes up 2-0. So What can't say they didn't have their opportunities. They just couldn't connect when it needed to most.
No, and again, the comp was not one that was going to make it easy to break back in once you go down. Again, the Inkjets are just going to make you eye level with anybody who's in the zone. And there was one part, I think, on the rail where you could kind of stand, but that's it. It's just this tiny little podium that you could get more height. And yeah, I figured Hatano, they were not going to lose the zone at all, and it neutralized a few times but never went back to So What. So a clean 100-0 push, not necessarily a 100-0 finish, but once Hatano had the zone, they never lost control of it.
And if they find ways to connect with a few more of those shots while they have control of the zone, we might be looking at a 1-1 match right now going into game 3. So they had their opportunity. They were built to hold on to the zone. They weren't built to come back into it. They had a good opportunity, though, because they were able to climb that left wall with one of those Inkjets and use the wall height. The problem is there's a Tri-Slosher right there, and you're not really... Tri-Sloshers aren't known for having long range, but it's just enough when you dip down to get swatted like a fly, and then all of a sudden it's over. And, you know, maybe you can find ways to connect with the Zukas, but you can't really find the right spots to do it right there on that stage. So, you know, what is the meta anymore? We're seeing teams trying some unique things so far on stream. Nobody's been successful with it. Hagglefish and Mako Mart here. They're going to be a much flatter stage than what we saw in game 2. Maybe you see that other L3 come out here, and I'm not expecting the Inkjet L3 to go away. I mean, this team has literally said their performance is going to be a roll of the dice. One round, you're going to beat Sun Eater. The other round, you might just get 3-0'd. But keep in mind, So What? They only have to play upcomers next. If they win that, they're moving on to Top Cut, even if they lose this.
Exactly. That's the thing. They just need to win 2 of their 3 to 2 of their 3 to guarantee a Top Cut, which is crazy, which is cool. Now the question is, what are you going to do once you get in a Top Cut? That's not for them to worry about right now. They're going to worry about game 3. And you did mention the Inkjet. I do see it being more viable on the stage, but we're going to get the ZF Fire Charger come out. So again, a slight change of weapon, but we don't have an Inkjet actually. It's going to be just the regular Nozzlenose L3 with Ultra Stamp, so no Inkjet this time around.
You know, when Ballpoint was viable, it probably still is viable to some extent, but when it was really popular in the early portions of the games, you would use Ballpoint here exclusively because Inkjet's on the left and right stack that is in mid gives you a lot of extra height. So them dropping Inkjet for this stage in particular might just be a sign of where Inkjet has gone since this game first came out. But also Hammer can be a good chase away tool in mid. You also got Burst Bomb with that thing as well, so that might be a little bit of a sub that they want to use with. But again, it's the same story. You're getting locked out. How do you break out of it with the tools that you have?
Yeah, especially on a more narrow stage, and with, again, if you're running away from an Ultra Stamp, there's only so many places that you can go if you're not going to jump out. Hei's going to be using the Ink Vac, trying to push up one of their members. Again, a lot of yellow paint on the ground with 2 players down on So What. So Hatano hoping that they hold on to the zone for the rest of this match without allowing So What to break back in. Weapon getting a nice pick on King Crowny here. It might be Weapon leading the charge, no pun intended, with their charger to try and break in with the triple ink strikes, but finally So What able to cap it and neutralize Hatano for the very first time.
This is something King Hatano fan club has not had so far in this match. Penalty points. So how do they have to deal with that? It's like, what, we don't get automatic points off of this? And nope, you're still, man, those vacuums are just so annoying. You're just finally in a position, and then you're just being absorbed into a black hole where you can't do anything, and somebody else can just take a 1v0 against you here. But So What's being pesky. They keep flipping the zone back and forth. They're almost done with their penalty points. They get a splat or 2 here, which they're not going to do because the Tri-Slosher on the other end is going to get a pick there. But still, So What not going down without a fight.
Yeah, they're putting up much more of an effort this time around, but I like their weapon changes. Again, losing the Inkjet, something they probably didn't want to do, but they knew being down 2-0, we gotta change something up a little bit. And so far, it's been working out for them. Of course, they don't have the lead, but they've definitely had their moments in time to shine. And I think they just need to find more ways to get that Ultra Stamp out and to really yield some damage. But they're going down to these blasters doing such a good job. And I feel like as soon as they see you, you're already going to be splatted pretty soon. And again, more yellow paint here on the stage. 2 specials ready. It's going to be the Ultra Stamp and triple ink strikes, just waiting for a time to break back in. They're going to want to do it soon, as about 10 points are remaining, but the Vac's coming out, Vac in front of the Inkjets, and that's not going to be enough. Vac is going to fire backwards to repaint the zone, and that is going to be it. Hatano acting like So What didn't change any of their weapon comps, winning this set 3-0.
You know, if the roller was sneaky enough and they didn't realize the roller was flanking right there, there might have been an opportunity in conjunction with those ink strikes being thrown on zone to cap it. The problem is the Splatling was wise to their tricks, and the roller just said, nah, I don't want to get splatted again. I'll take the 0-3 sweep. We'll move on. Again, we just got to beat upcomers in the next round. It will be moving on to top cut. But, man, the L3 community, all 2 of you must be mauling right now at what you just saw.
Yeah, especially with the glitter L3 users, you know, all 1.5 of you, if you will. But yeah, so Hatano's going to be getting that win, go up 2-0, so they're guaranteeing themselves in the top cut. Again, So What just needs to get 1 more against upcomers, like you mentioned. And upcomers and Sun Eaters right now tied 1-1. Both of those teams trying to get a win to keep their playoffs alive.
That is a fantastic win for upcomers. If they could find a way to squeak out a match victory there, that might put a little bit of a scare into So What going into the next round, where King Hatano fan club, I mean, regardless, I don't think there's any tiebreaker scenario that could keep them out at this point. Maybe there is, but who cares? They should. Well, actually, it is fair to point out that they would be going up against Sun Eater, who obviously isn't having the best day so far, but is capable of doing some damage going on. As we take a look at some of the other groups that are taking place here, is pretty much everybody is in round 2. 37 Sexy Boys and Apple are going to a game 5. And if you look at Group A right here, that is going pretty much as expected as well. Pretty much 2-0s across the board, or 3-0s as necessary. EZMD dropped a game to Poltergeist, so they're making that one an interesting one, because Poltergeist and EZMD are the 2 teams likely to move on to top cut out of Group B. In C, things are just getting started. The Avengers up 1-0 over Doom Desire. Those 2 teams undefeated so far. King up 2-0 in Healthy Diet. So King might just be sending Healthy Diet out early into this event with no shot of making their way into top cut.
Yeah, and the last time we talked about Group Z was when we mentioned Jared was playing for Healthy Diet. So we talked about how that one was going into Game 5. Doom Desire did end up getting that win like we figured. There was about 10 seconds remaining before we hopped into our previous game. But yeah, with that, and then King on the 2-0 lead over Healthy Diet, it looks like they're going to be kind of wrapping things up there, unless they can turn it around somehow. Don't know if it's in the cards for them at this moment, but yeah, Doom Desire and King likely going to be the match that we're going to be seeing pretty soon here, especially if King gets this win and Doom Desire gets a loss. Both of those teams will be at a 1-1 situation where they really need to get that win to secure their spots.
Just as we predicted, which is why we locked that one in to be casted, because we knew that would be a play-in, essentially, for top cut out of Group C. As we take a look at some of the other things here, EZMD up 2-1 over Poltergeist. Yeah, no real updates across the board as we're looking at that. Snails did not play in round 1. They had a bye there in a group that only has 3 teams. They're currently up 2-0 on Epitaph, who beat Blank Z 3-0. So ipso facto, Snails is going to be one of the top 2 teams moving on to that group. No surprises there. And everything else is... there's some things that are kind of locked in, but still kind of up to grabs for the most part here. Shout outs to everybody, though, for moving along. 1 hour in, and we're just about knocking on the door of the final round of this group stage. I'm a big fan of this format.
It's going pretty well, pretty easy, pretty standard. But remember, all these teams are playing for one of the top 3 spots in the Global Gauntlet number 2. And if you're unfamiliar with that series, we have a video for you to check out while we have some downtime. So take a look.
One mic left.
I'm watching left back.
Hey, jump. They're jumping forward.
Now we're back to a fight for the zone. Both of these teams are around, but 2 down.
Nope.
On to PXG, but grab tank.
Dead! Zone, ping! Oh, catch it! Oh.
No, dude, don't do this. Come on, yo.
Nice. Nice.
You ain't seen nothing yet. Wait until you see what... Now that we know we're capable of taking matches away from Japan, sometimes when they're not trying hard and other times when they are, now we know what to expect going forward with the second Global Gauntlet. And again, as you mentioned, Falco, the top 3 teams from this event will automatically qualify for it. So congratulations, Snails! Congratulations preemptively for qualifying for this one. I wouldn't be surprised if they sub in Jordan and change their name to PXG.
Yeah, it'll be quite the tournament. June 5th is when it's all happening, and that's probably a late night start time for us, Eastern. I imagine. Isn't it like at 11 p.m. Eastern? Something like that?
The last one kicked off at 11. Yeah. Yes, and we did. Me, K-Bot, and Shadowwind did the analyst desk for that. And the first round of it went great, and the second round of it, I don't even remember. And we opted not even to do the final round of that. But I was pleasantly surprised because we were alluding to the fact of like, oh, eventually North America is just going to crash out when it gets into rounds 5 and 6. And they're just going to run out of energy. That didn't happen. Teams arguably played their best in those final rounds, especially the European players, who essentially it's breakfast time by the time it gets to that for those players. So that was a pleasant surprise seeing how competitive those players are. And again, all of this will lead into Splat World Series, the actual Splat World Series, which will take place later this summer.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Great that we have a tournament that really encapsulates Splatoon around the world. Very hard to coordinate, and props to you guys for making it done, especially partnering with the Area Cup and those folks for getting it done. A few more scores to update for you guys so far. Suneater up and comers 2-1. Suneater having the lead right there. And King getting that 3-0 over Healthy Diet Food Groups. The Avengers 2-0 leading Doom Desire right now. And we'll take a look here. 37 Sexy Boys getting a 3-2 win over Apple. So squeaking that one out. 37 Sexy Boys get their record up to 1-1, keeping their hopes alive. Apple going to be dropping down. They're going to be facing Poltergeist, who we saw in round 1.
So that means EZMD, a team who played in the last Global Gauntlet Finals as well, and the number 2 seed here, all but guaranteed they just got to take care of business against 37 Sexy Boys, and they'll be moving on to Top Cut as expected. Group A is finally on to round 3. Epitaph is done for now. They are 1-1. They're probably going to move on to Top Cut as well because there's only 3 teams out of that group, but should be another 3-0 here unless Blanks can find a way to trip up a team that nobody has been able to trip up in the past couple of years outside of Japan.
For Group A, that Epitaph and Blank Z, it stinks that that's likely the only game that really mattered to them to make it to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Or not. And then it's just like, well, we got to get through rounds 2 and 3. We have a bye during one of them. So for one of those teams, it's a very quick tournament, and they have the rest of their Saturday or Saturday evening free to enjoy. So yeah, that's the tricky part. But again, on paper, it's an 8 seed and 9 seed, so you'd imagine it's close. Epitaph got the 3-0 in round 1, so unfortunately for Blank Z, it's that's a rough day for you.
And again, we are going to be doing Doom Desire and King, and I think we're still waiting on the Avengers up 2-0 on that one. Yeah, so they're still kind of playing. Nope, it just finished up. The Avengers 3-0'd Doom Desire. So we're going to be seeing a match that has a lot on the line here. If Doom Desire or King were to win, they will move up to 2-1, and they'll take the Top Cut spots. Yes. Like, I'm trying to think if Healthy Diet, which is capable, they haven't been having a good day, obviously, but they are capable of beating the Avengers. If they would find a way to do that, then that would create a scenario to where... No, actually, it wouldn't matter. Healthy Diet, yes. So no matter what happens here, this winner of this one will move on. The loser will not. It's just a matter of, will there be a 3-0 team or 2 teams at 2-1? So this is a win you're in, lose you're out. Doesn't matter about tiebreakers at this point.
Yeah, great matchup for us to see as our final one for the pools here, which you did mention it's moving pretty quickly. It's moving very, very fast compared to some other tournaments, so that's always great to see too. Other tournaments, yeah. I really like this Doom Desire comp too. Bubbles and 49er, those 2 players are so fun to watch. So 49er on the Octobrush. Again, we don't really see Octobrush very often, but they play it so well too. And we're talking about Nautilus, how it's not used very often, but Swag could be running with it. Typically plays Nautilus 47 and 79. So we hope to see that. And it's going to be Bubbles, who's the backline, might be the most flexible, using both Snipe Riders and both heavy Splatlings too. And Tan is going to be rocking as a Slayer, potentially using Trisaucer Nouveau or Forge Splattershot Pro, again, a weapon we don't see very often.
Fits the theme, doesn't it? We saw Squiffer in round 1. We saw double L3 in round 2. If we've learned anything, because we've done a couple of 3-0s here, this is starting to sound like when you and me are doing land sets, Falco, or
yeah,
it's just constant 3-0s left and right. It's almost like, hey, we're willing to experiment today. Experiments have not worked out well on stream, but you go up against the right kind of opponent, we'll see how that works out. I mean, obviously, we're as I was mentioning before, I don't know if they use the L3 comp, them being so what if they use that against Suneater, but they beat Suneater 3-1. So how's that going to play out here between Doom Desire and King? As we can we take a look at the stages here? It's going to be Mahi Mahi Resort for game 1, Pump Track in game 2, and Mako Mart in game 3 is what we're going to be seeing here. So other than game 2, mostly stages. Well, I mean, I guess players have disgruntledly gotten used to playing at humpback pump track zones at sometimes, but at least the first 3 are going to be more conventional stages. So we're going to see the team's best comps that they're going to be busting out here.
Yeah, and on paper, King doesn't have a flexible roster at all, really. It is just Zog on the Custom Blaster, Soren on the Splatana Wiper, and Taxes on the E-Leader. It's going to be Ultra, who potentially could be playing something other than Dynamo Roller, but they're an analog player, too. That is something we do not see very often, but if you're going to do it on any weapon, might as well do it on Dynamo.
You know, I got the X rank on sticks in Splatoon 2. And then I switched over to motion. I switched to motion after a long time because motion would make me sick. And I'm sure anybody else who grew up playing like Nintendo 64 or even GameCube or like Wii games, motion controls were just a bit foreign. So, and we've seen some really strong analog players in other things as well. So, and yeah, with your Dynamo, you find just it's probably just a little bit easier just to line it up here, and the wide coverage that sucker gets, especially after the buff it got a couple of patches ago, can be very frustrating to deal with.
Yeah. Sorry, my dog was barking and my son woke up, so perfect timing for me to be on commentary right now. But luckily, Grandma and Grandpa are over to help out with that. For analog too, I remember when I first started playing Splatoon, I played on sticks because I was like, oh, motion is way too hard. There's no way this is fun. There's no way nobody's going to play this. And then I think I was like 25 hours in. I'm like, you know what? I should give it a shot. And then I never looked back after that too. But it's hard to get used to. A little bit tricky.
Oh yeah. Your first time, it is extremely hard to get used to.
And I was never a gamer, so I never did anything with like mouse controls or anything like that too. But yeah. Anyways, game 3 here, King versus. Oh, did we zoom? No, I zoomed in on my phone. We'll take a look at the comps. King versus Doom Desire. 49er. Yeah, I think with the ink brush. Octobrush with the zip caster, that is where you really want to make 49er thrive, and I think they're going to try. Doom Desire is going to try and make that happen.
And if you can use the Spider Squid in ways to deal with that Respawn Punisher E-Leader, keep them off balance and put the pressure on them to where they can't get set up, that is going to be key for 49ers. They ultimately get traded out with the Splatana Wiper, but Zone goes to Doom Desire to start things off. Pay your bills. That is not going to be an easy trade. That is going to be something that works out in the Bubble's favor because, again, they got the Respawn Punisher, and if you can keep the E-Leader off the board, that is going to be key for Doom Desire. They have to find ways to protect them, especially with that Dynamo.
Yeah, they're really going to have to try and make sure that happens. Soren is staying alive here, hidden behind the pillow. Going to have to watch out using the Ultra Stamp, but get taken down. You really wish you have more than just a trade in that situation, but it's not going to happen too, as the zone is still neutral. I'm kind of surprised Doom Desire hasn't capped it, and they finally do. So again, a little bit delayed, but they have a few penalty points they need to get through if they want to take the lead.
I don't know if 49er was aware that Pay Your Bills was set up in that snipe area. They were right behind them with the Zipcaster. They could have got a splat on them. Instead, they were able to get rid of everybody else, and that forced the E-Leader to jump out. So kind of a pseudo wipeout in that sense as the zone starts to lower now. Below 50 is Doom Desire. Only 2 players up and a lot of specials ready to go for King. But one of the specials is a vacuum, and that's going to pretty much chase everybody out here. Doom Desire is still holding on to things. They're knocking on the door of a KO.
Yeah, Titan with a very nice ink vac shot there, just pushing out any member of King. They're going to try and hold on to this for the next 10 seconds, and I like how they're not overextending themselves, really. There's going to be Louis who's just waiting there on the left side. They get all these picks. It's only Pay Your Bills who is still alive, so great movement by Doom Desire, just making sure that they knew their objective, hold on to the zone. We don't want to push forward enough. Make King come to us, and they excelled on that at the very end. It was a fantastic win.
It's funny how Vacuum has changed over the course of this year and since the game first came out. I mean, just the concept of this thing absorbs damn near everything that you can throw at it. at the very beginning of the game, you would think, oh, this is broken. Like you can absorb Booyah bombs, you can absorb like everything else, the Zuka strikes, everything that's thrown at you. And we just never touched it for a couple of years. And I know it got buffed a few times, and I know it's being used now more, starting off in Rainmaker because you can protect the Rainmaker with it. But now we're starting to see it used in pretty much every single mode. And hilariously enough, we're seeing the vanilla weapons being used. That 96 gal, nobody used that. That thing was available at launch. And now everyone's just now starting to discover it because it's like, oh, I can pop this vacuum by itself and it stops everything the enemy team is trying to do, buys enough time for my teammates to jump into me because I'm likely going to be safe, and we can just extend a push exclusively off the vacuum.
And that's what I love to see with a lot of the weapons. And I know like Milky Way, for instance, runs that very often where they're running the comps that have been out since the beginning of Splatoon 3. So really nothing has changed other than the discovery of how we want to play these weapons and these specials. So it's always fun to see, but we'll move on to game 2. Humpback Pump Track, a few changes coming out this time around. Titan's still sticking with the 96. And Pay Your Bills still on the E-Leader as well. Silver Dynamo coming out, so they're going to have cooler with that.
The Dynamo is probably thrilled to be on this stage in particular. And if you're going to win at any point in this match, it has to be right here with the comp that you have. And be able to push up with the hammers, then get a nice double on top of it here. And I don't know how the Dynamo didn't clean off one of those players as well. But still, zone goes into the King's favor. And now they got to start finding ways to push up, especially with that E-Leader being able to find the ways to poke players as they drop down into their plat.
Yeah, you just don't want to get Doom Desire too comfortable, and a lot of them are now just kind of spread out, trying to approach from the left side to break in, but King's doing a fantastic job holding on to the zone. These kind of like delayed wipeouts are really working out for King, and especially with the point sensors identifying the first person to break back in. The VAC helps saves the triple splashdown that was coming out as Soren is trying to push up here, takes that Lewis too with pretty much the maximum range from this weapon. So that was a really good splat, and it looks like it's 49 are trying to find a way that they can break back in. They're the one trying to make the most of their flank, but they're caught by the blaster, now the majority of the rest of the players.
Man, somehow Doom Desire was able to flip the zone back there, though. All those penalty points put on, and that's got to be frustrating for Soren, saying, look, I'm locking down this plat area. They can't get out of their spawn. They have to deal with me, but they're able to flank around from that right side, get behind. They took out the E-Leader somehow on top of it as well, and that was able to at least slow down King, or who's probably sitting here saying, man, we could have got a whole heck of a lot more than 33 and all these penalty points through. But still, you're going to be in a good situation for King. You can do this back and forth tug of war. You got wiped out right there. That's still fine because you already got soda. You got your specials ready to go yet again. They already got 2 specials ready coming out of their spawn. They can do a tug of war right here.
Yeah, and it's like that definitely was not the worst case scenario getting wiped out. You think of a wipeout and you're like, oh man, that stinks. That's huge for Doom Desire. But when you come back so quickly with that cooler, that is really fortunate. And they're able to make a comeback here, trying to rush towards the zone. Titan was pushed up pretty far and realizes they have to use their vac shot to go back to the zone to recap it. So I feel like King has been trying to find ways to break back in, but they just immediately get splatted or they have to jump out, and Doom Desire has been doing such a good job. They take the lead with all that happening, and right now it looks like King might have one more attempt to try and come back in. Titan is going to somehow take out the Ultra Stamp user, which is great, but Doom Desire really got to hold on to the zone, and they finally lose it.
King able to squeak their way back into things. Man, that was looking really dicey right there. I was thought for sure we're going to be going in 2-0. And we might still be, because that tug of war never really happened. Doom Desire was just able to keep finding ways to push up, cancel specials, body players away from the zone, and use that vacuum yet again just to completely occupy space on top of things, with the strikes coming out on here as well. But look at all the splats coming out, Falco. Doom Desire just keeps getting pushed back. Penalty points gone.
Yeah, and 3 specials were online for King. They had the Tacticooler, they had the Waybreaker as well, and now using the Ultra Stamp gets that pick. That is huge. what a great comeback for King to get the win. What a good. This is by far the best game that we have casted so far with it going more than about a minute and a half. So King on the board, we are tied 1-1.
And if you were going to win on any stage, it had to be right there. It was looking very dicey at times, but they were able to get the right kind of setup that they needed there finally at the end. Not just players pushing up, but players being able to defend things on the back end as well. You are kind of recognized from King's point of view. The left side of the stage was where they were able to slip through before and bust everything wide open. They were able to defend that expertly at the end of the game that time around. That allowed Soren to control that right side with ease on top of everything there. So they tie it up going into game 2 now, which is good, or game 3. It's going to be Mako Mart.
Yeah, and really what changed it around for King was the fact that they used their coolers. So, I mean, they used their coolers really well to break back in and just save their specials too. But knowing how to make the most of their specials really helped them out there. And again, we talked about the InkVac usage just in general from the last few months for a lot of these teams and a lot of these players. And it's interesting to see the strategy where it goes from, I'm going to use this to push forward because nothing, you can throw everything at me, I'm just going to absorb it. But then I'm going to go around and touch up on the zone and shoot it at the zone because I see that you just neutralized it. And if you're in the zone, you're not going to see my shot coming. So it's like a completely different play style from what is intuitive of using the InkVac, but I love to see it right now.
Game 3 with the match tied 1 apiece. We're going to Mako Mart, and we're not going to see many comp changes coming out from either side, which is, I guess, just what you see is what you're going to get from here on out. And if 49er can keep finding those ways to use the spider squid and zip cast a lot and put a lot of pressure onto the Dynamo and the E-Leader, Doom Desire can find ways to wrestle the lead of this match right back as we see both teams taking their respective stack near the zone. Who can chase the player out first?
Yeah, and that's a good thing to point out for 49ers. Typically, you would go right for the back line, but especially when you have what can be considered 2 back lines, you have 2 targets, and that makes it hard for the rest of your team to try and be proactive and make up for lost ground. So 49ers going to be trying to do just that against Ultra. Ultra's going to get away with the splat there, which is really hard to do. You have one of the slowest fire weapons in this entire game taking out a Zipcaster, so that's huge. But all that happening, Doom Desire able to take the lead, control the zone. Zog here, with not a lot of paint to work with, is going to try and get into the zone. 2 down now on Doom Desire's King holds on.
And they got some specials to work with, and by some I mean 1. They just got the Ultra Stamp right here. But does anyone realize the Ultra Stamp's coming from behind? What happened there? Excuse me. Excuse me. Did they literally just like hammer above them? Like they picked it up as they were moving through? I think just the RNG factor of the shot kept that vacuum alive.
Well, and considering how crazy big the hitbox is for Ultra Stamp, like that's one of those, you're like, oh, you're so splatted. There's no way you're getting away with that. And to be honest, I don't know exactly the physics of how InkVacs and like Ultra Stamps really work together. But we could see what they were trying to do, trying to go from behind. But the InkVac user did such a good job just turning around right away. And here we go. Okay, so now Soren's finally going to get the pick on Titan. They're going to be getting that win, and it's not coming at a better time than right now because you already have 2 down, you have the zone, and you're setting yourself up for success.
And you got the E-Leader pushing up, which is basically being on that right stack area, which is going to force players to come from this left side where there's a perfect defense set up by King. Somehow they kept the zone, though. They're not going to hold on to it long, and here's going to be a burned vacuum, which they're not going to feed into. We're just going to leave you right there, let you deal with that, and we're just going to keep things going here. But man, King was really close to getting the KO. I don't know how Doom Desire was able to cap that. Must have just thrown something perfectly onto the zone, and that's going to keep them in it.
Yeah, and as Zog gets canceled as they're trying to use their triple splashdown, so they're going to go down too. But yeah, King still holding on. Doom Desire, they have been doing a pretty good job countering a lot of the plays from King, but typically King is getting the better end of it, and they really have been, especially with how spread out a lot of these players are right now. I don't see it possible for Doom Desire to break back in, especially not having a player advantage, and there it is. Yeah, King getting this one, and again, a lot of back and forth movement, but it seemed like King was one step ahead of Doom Desire pretty much the entire time.
You think back to game 2, how there was a moment where Doom Desire was so close to just getting the knockout and going up 2-0. And ever since then, it's been all King. Up to this point, they've won 2 in a row now. 1 win away. And keep in mind, this is still this is essentially a playoff game for these teams. They're already in top cut in a sense. You win, you move on, you lose, you're done. So King being able to find a way to flip the script after getting run out in game 1 and find ways to make this a competitive set and still be dominant. And again, that was a very dominant win in that game 3. Yeah, that like they sneezed on the zone somehow and flipped it back. That just delayed the inevitable, it turns out, because King has been the better team, and just really the Zipcasters have not been landing for Doom Desire. They've been trying, but King's been doing a good job of dodging them and saying, hey, somebody help me while I keep this person distracted. All right, I got the blaster. I'll pop them in the back of the head, and we'll just move on from there. That's really been the key, that where Doom Desire needs to find ways to make those Zipcasters connect, because that initiates everything for them.
Yeah, it really has. It starts with the Zipcaster, and if you can keep it under control, and King's been doing, like you mentioned, a great job with that. And it's hard when you have a double backline comp. You have the leader and you have the Dynamo too. So it's hard because, again, you have 2 targets. You really have to make sure you're identifying where they are and put all your focus on the Zipcaster to make sure that you don't get splatted and you can take them out too. So King now just needing one game to wrap this up and move on officially into top cut here. Doom Desire hoping to win the next 2. We'll get started here with game 4.
At Umami Ruins, where can they find the Zipcaster angles on this stage? No comp changes coming out from either team. As we roll on here, it all comes down to finding ways to cap the other team's zone while keeping yours protected. So you got to find ways to start attacking around that left side, which is what Soren is essentially trying to do, is going to be met immediately by 49ers to keep them in check. And both players say, I don't want to fight either one of you. Let's just go to the opposite side.
Yeah, Doom, they had the risky play of one of their players immediately went to the left zone. Typically, they're the first target if they're going to get splatted, but King was wise enough to just recognize, you know what, we'll back out for now. We don't want to lose a lot of our players, but it's working out for Doom Desire. I mean, they took control of the zone and they're pushing forward, but 49ers left alone now. This could be where King really comes in. They don't have any specials online yet, but again, waiting for them. The cooler's finally going to be out. We could probably see a little bit more aggression, but we're seeing some aggression from Doom Desire as well, especially with the triple ink strikes. And if I'm Doom Desire, I'm doing everything I can to hold on to the zone so you don't get penalty points, but finally you get them and you have a few players go down too. So King walking away with that one in pretty good fashion.
Hey, your Bill's looking for that splat and opt in to say, you know what, let me back up. Let me get control of mid. Let me allow my teammates to jump in. Let's build up some specials, and let's get some points lined up right here, and let's push back. That Zipcaster 49er instantly evaporated yet again, but here come the ink strikes and the vacuum working in conjunction with each other. The problem is you can't really throw those ink strikes too far from that pit area that's going to attack the zone. So that doesn't do much, but the splats are going to get on top of it. Should. Even though 49er yet again getting eliminated. That player's having a hard time staying up on the stage. They really need that Octobrush in mid.
Yeah, and they just don't have a lot of paint, too, to work with. You really rely on the heavy edit at that point to make up for the paint that you don't have. Octobrush on its own has pretty good paint output, and Slosher's okay. 96 not, or 52 not necessarily, so it's harder to figure out what you want to do, but Doom's been able to hold on pretty well, but they're just not able to help 49er with what they want to accomplish, because they go in for the splats but immediately will go down. And I mean, you'll take that if it gets you the lead, but at what point, how much do you want to sacrifice to get that lead when you know all you're doing is getting it, but then immediately having a neutral game once again?
Well, it's like having a player who does nothing but flank the entire time. They can fail 11 times, but if they connect just once, that could be enough to blow the game wide open and get the KO. So you just got to keep hacking away at it. But we are stuck in this tug of war here. This is going to be lead back into King's favor, but not going to be enough for them to hold on for a substantial amount of time, unless they find a way to connect with a splashdown right there and get a couple of splats. And now it's just the 96 who's nowhere near. So this is going to be King's opportunity to run away with a score.
Yeah, Kings really got to hold on to this, and lucky for them, they already have a lot of paint in front of the zone too. Again, Pay Your Bills was kind of the one who's in the front as the E-leader, but that just shows how comfortable they are, especially when some of these specials weren't online yet. Now finally online, able to push them back. But for King's point, they're just not, it's not even neutralized yet. King never lost it. Finally, one more opportunity, and that's not going to be it. King is going to get this set win 3-1.
The vacuum couldn't help them out in the end right there. Popped in a situation to where there wasn't enough players to put pressure onto the zone, and they could only vacuum one side. They got to get both if you want to make something happen here. King doing a fantastic job taking every single punch that was thrown at them, and none of the punches just ever really connected. And again, Doom Desire so close to being up 2-0. If they do that, they win the match. Like, just from a mental standpoint, they got everything rolling right there. But letting the lead slip away in game 2 bled into things not connecting in game 3 and put too much pressure on them in game 4. So King has won. They are 2-1 in this group, and they are moving on to Top Cut.
They will be joined by the Avengers, who has a 1-0 lead over Healthy Diet Food Groups. Healthy Diet Food Groups playing for pride at this point. Right now they are down 0-2 in their series. No chance at making that top cut. A few other matches have wrapped up in Group B. EZMD getting a 3-1 victory over 37 Sexy Boys. And Apple with an upset getting that win against Poltergeist. So that is Poltergeist's well, actually, that's their second loss because EZMD took them down too. So EZMD and Poltergeist looking like they might be the ones who move on at that point. We will see when all is said and done. Yeah, actually, Poltergeist, they move on at a 1-2. So they have a what you call circle of suck situation.
There's a lot of suck right there. 1 and 2 teams. Yeah.
Yeah, that's hard to overcome. And Snails, in typical Snail fashion, getting their wins, moving up 2-0, not dropping a game here in our group stage.
So the tiebreaker in that 3 teams going 1 and 2, Poltergeist has a 5-6 record in their games. Apple has a 5-7, so they have one more loss. So they were tied with the same number of wins. So Poltergeist taking one game off of EZMD was the difference right there. And luckily, because I have no idea what the 4th tiebreaker is in that kind of scenario. King moving on. The Avengers, like we said, doesn't matter what happens with Healthy Diet. Sun Eater and King Hatano Fanclub are tied 1-1. That one's going to be curious because I think So What is they're up 1-0 on Upcomers, so they're likely going to win. I mean, you never know what's going to happen there because Upcomers actually took Sun Eater to a game 5 before ultimately losing that. So you could have a possible scenario to where there's a 3-way tie of 2-1 teams in Group D. But obviously, Snails, Epitaph moving on. I think it's just Group D that has something interesting to keep an eye on there for the last one. I think everything else, all the other top cut teams are solidified, even if we don't know like the exact order they're in.
Right, and So What just got another game win against Upcomer, so they're up 2-0. But yeah, that Sun Eater King Hatano match tied 1-1. That's going to be the one that you guys want to focus on before we move on to our top cut. But Popgun, that is going to be it for us. So we are not going to be casting Popgun. You guys will. We're not going to be casting Popgun Top Cut. You guys will have Rissa and K-Bot for the rest of your viewing pleasure there. But that's going to be it for us. Popgun, thank you for subbing in. I know it was a last minute. Thank you for getting your hair cut prior to our cast so we could confirm that we were going to have somebody significantly more bolder than Toma be on the cast today.
Oh, yeah.
We appreciate you going out of your way to do that.
Well, I appreciate my wife who has been cutting my hair for about, 17 years now. I think that's correct. I just pulled that out of my head. And PJ woke up a little bit earlier as well. So both of you and me have to transition from caster duties to dad duties. So I think we're done here unless we need to stall for a little bit longer. Otherwise, Hey, yes, K-Bot and Rizza coming up next. Stick around. There's more action to come from Season 11 SendouQ Finals. Don't go anywhere.
Hello there, everybody, and welcome back to the SendouQ Season 11 finale. My name is K-Bot here, joined by Rissa, and we are about ready to get right underway into quarterfinals. First match we will be watching is the Avengers versus Poltergeist. Now, Rissa, both of these two teams in their group stage knocked off either the champion or runner-up from Ludi Division 1 finals recently. So they're both on a hot streak coming into the bracket today.
Okay, that's really good to know. And just looking at them too, there's a couple familiar players on each team that I see. Looking at this, I was trying to just really get a grasp, and you were too, K-Bot, before this. We were just looking at the teams, really trying to figure out who was who and get a feel for the European teams that are playing today. So both teams have notable members, have notable results as well. And as we head into this top cut, will be interesting to watch.
Of course, other teams to look out for in the top cut bracket across the board. Snails is probably the heavy favorite entering the day today, as three players are looking to make it back to back with a win here. Additionally, EasyMD versus King. King being that Ludi Division 1 runner-up that was beaten by Avengers earlier today. So we're getting into it. First one is Mincemeat Metalworks. Interesting stage to begin with on the randomizer as we get straight underway here. And handful of different blasters, handful of different comps. What do we see here, Rissa?
Okay, interesting. We see Inkbrush initially on the right side of the map there. Heavy Splatling, which has been in the meta currently, that we see on the side of Avengers. That's been a really, really popular anchor weapon within the meta currently. On the other side, we see the classic, like you said, a blaster, a slosher, a splash, and then that pencil as well.
Already getting straight underway. The Avengers look like they get much of the first laugh, although don't have a lot of stability to their name. The Wavebreaker actually gets thrown in here to try to have some level of sustained presence in front of the zone, and is somewhat successful in dissuading Poltergeist from moving in. Though with these strikes, we see Mako now approach on the side with the slosher, gets the attention of the rest of the Avengers, but no one else from Poltergeist is really following up here. They get separated, 3-down situation, Wipeout comes through, and the Avengers will retake a firm hold of the zone with already, look at this, I think that's Fumitoshio the Brush going so far forward already.
Wow, they are definitely acting as Avengers here, as they are immediately taking control of the zone from the other team, getting rid of those penalty points and then pushing up forward past the zone as well. We see the jump coming into the anchor, him here on that Heavy Splatling acting as an anchor, using that aggressive play as well to push forward and poke at the other team as they're trying to come into the base. And they're consistently holding on to the zone right now. Finally, we're seeing some yellow paint come into the zone. Triple splashdown added to that as well from Poltergeist. They were able to cap the zone, give penalty points over to the Avengers. But, I mean, they're having still a really tough time trying to come into the zone, as they're just really just able to kind of poke at it, but they're really not able to capitalize on much more than that. They can't get yellow paint around the zone. They can't, use those specials to add any extra pressure past that.
Certainly feels like the Avengers have all their bases covered right now, and you see the pressure funneled right around their Inkbrush player on the front lines, coming in from the right side and left. All Poltergeist can do is walk straight in. It's a 3-down delayed wipeout situation at this point. Mako getting taken down there once. Poltergeist is going to have to try to make a last-ditch effort for the zone, and here's IPS's Crab Tank to try to get some ounce of paint down, but the Avengers will hold it off in purple, and they'll take game one.
Yeah, they did a really great job there once it took a second, and literally it was just a second to be able to get control of the zone, but once they did, they just consistently were having a dominant control of the entire map. They had paint on the sides, they were pushing forward past the zone, and then even when the other team would come into the zone and get specials out like they were supposed to, there was just an answer from the Avengers. They knew to stay back, let the specials happen, and they did a great job.
Certainly the case. And again, I think, one of the other key points that we'll probably end up seeing over the course of the day is the best defense is a better offense. Anytime you can set up a very safe offensive presence is the second that you're going to be very victorious. And that's what the Avengers were able to do there that I tried calling out, right? Poltergeist didn't have a free approach angle that they could take. They were covered on all sides. And not only that, but the Avengers were able to coalesce and apply pressure to a particular point where Poltergeist was coming in from, and they were kind of forcing and funneling their opponents to go that direction, and then were able to punish that very play. So the counter pick comes out, and it is Urchin Underpass here. No, actually, looks like this is just the standard no counter pick and algorithm. So Urchin Underpass here is next on the list, and don't really have a lot of a presence from a Charger player here. So wouldn't expect to see things that are too far different from what we observed in the first game.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. It seems like, you know, these are weapons that they're happy with and they know how to play and they're comfortable with. It really just kind of comes down to a game plan situation and figuring out how to play against the other team in particular. And if you're Poltergeist, you highlighted it perfectly. They just have to figure out how to get past that offensive line that the Avengers sets up.
Yeah, so will be fun to see here whether or not the same level of play will come out here from the Avengers. Again, look to see where they're going to set up their support for their brush player. If they can get that ahead of the zone, that'll be one of the keys. And we are not getting started with game 2 at the moment, given by the fact that 3 squids are now on the board. I don't know what the deal is. I think so far today, I have seen more just random disconnects than I have seen in a long time in a Splatoon event. Although maybe that's just, I don't know exactly what the case is or the reason why that would be. But yeah, baffling to say the least, the number of reset maps I've had to see over the course of the day. We were talking about it, of course, before we got on. But even that, we're not very far delayed, Brissa. We're 2 hours into the event so far, so still plenty of fresh blood at the moment.
Yeah, even though there's some delays, honestly, I wasn't expecting to get on the cast for another 30 minutes. So we are definitely still doing good on time. Not a worry about that. But I do agree. I've seen quite a few disconnects randomly happening today. Maybe it's just one of those days for the servers. I feel like that just happens every now and then. And then the next day happens and it's like, oh, okay, we're fine. I don't know. I don't know why that happens.
Who knows precisely? Maybe it's more people playing on a weekend day. Maybe it's true that there's so much Splatoon excitement in general across the board, with plenty of events happening across the world this weekend. As we take a look now, hopefully getting loaded into our second map, and a Bamboozler is what comes out here for him, opting for that variant instead of the heavy.
Yeah, that was the immediate first thing I saw that too when we went into that first match that had the DC. I saw the Bamboozler on the side of Avengers. Interesting. I'm very interested as we watch this to see how that plays out. And then on the other side too, just to note for Poltergeist, they have a Dynamo this time as well. I think that's going to be really helpful for the more flat. There's like ledges on this map, but it's a little bit more of a flat, not necessarily the super high levels of this map, and I think that can come into play for them. So initially here, taking a look at this, it's just that Dynamo left alive. They get called out as well, and this is looking very similar to that first match we watched, where all of a sudden it seems like, okay, maybe it's back and forth, and then all of a sudden the Avengers just comes through, takes control of the zone, and again, we're seeing them do the same exact same thing as that last game. It looks like they're pushing forward, they're taking space. They look at that, they called out that member on the right side of the map of the other team, and they're playing really, really nicely together in these team fights as they push forward.
Rush getting taken down first, but now is right back into the action, gets taken down a second time, and Poltergeist have still not had all 4 members up for some time. Again, it's that consistent pressure where they haven't been able to get set up, have a special execution flow that they really want to. And again, another 3-down situation as Tacobon steps forward. The brush is there again, trying to make more havoc and trades take place. Finally, we see the blaster flank around the side, is going to try to make a play for the zone, but it's too late. I wasn't even looking at the timer, and the Avengers will take away game 2 as quick as it started.
Yeah, that was really dominant. I was saying at the beginning of that, I was really curious how that bamboo would come into play, but I feel like the way they played that with their teammates, the chip damage that the bamboo is able to add to other team fights with the other weapons that are on the team. I mean, they played team fights beautifully, so pairing a bamboo with that and adding to the chip damage worked out really nicely for them. They couldn't even really let the other team breathe with that type of chip damage that they were having on the other team.
And I think that's the other thing, too, where also the map geometry, when you're thinking about how the Avengers want to play and where they are getting set up, you are noticing this brush player is getting right underneath those ledges. It is almost impossible to shoot down at the brush unless you have a slosher, which isn't really around all that often, right? And even then, you don't have a lot of tools at your disposal to get somebody down from that right underneath that ledge. And so then when you try to drop down to fight them, you're right inside of the brush's range, right where they want to be. And most likely you're also getting chipped at by what you mentioned, whether it be a bamboozler or we saw the rabbit in the last game or something of the sort. Something else is there in order to double up on the level of damage and where that fight exactly is. And right now, it's a struggle for this Poltergeist squad to find an answer. I think we might need to go back to basics here. Let's roll splat bombs down at them. Let's try to get maybe if we've got another slosher or two in our back pocket, it's time to pull it out because Hagglefish Market isn't going to be a lot different here on map 3. There are still plenty of those more forward places where the brush is going to sit right underneath and the rest of the team is going to try to funnel Poltergeist into that specific spot. We'll see whether or not that happens again as we get loaded in right away.
All right, taking a look at these comps as well. So similar weapons that we have been seeing from each side. This time, though, on the side of Poltergeist, we're switching over to that Snipe Rider. Going to have that this time as their range. So as we move forward with the Avengers having the bamboo still, actually, I almost was kind of thinking they would go back to the heavy splatling for this, but it seemed like they really liked the way that worked for them. So as we watch this, that bamboo versus that Snipe Rider range difference is going to be one of the things that I'm going to be watching myself.
Yeah, and, you know, that'll be another interesting component to this, but when you talk about having that additional chip damage, right? The bamboo plus even to some extent, maybe the killer whale, given by the fact that it has infinite rage, I mean, added a little bit of extra chip damage when you're talking about a brush sitting there, and that's probably what you need to get one less swipe of the brush down, that quicker time to splat, and that's going to lead to more fights to victory. You'll notice right now Poltergeist trying to guard underneath their edge, making sure that that brush doesn't get set up in position. Here comes Taco Bon. Him's going to get taken down by the strikes, and we start to see Poltergeist slowly move forward. They have to keep taking more room. They've got a few specials at their disposal to do so, but they go 2 down in the process. The Ultra Stamp goes straight through everything, and with this 2-down situation, they're not going to have the stability to hold on to this zone for much longer. So while trades continue to happen, the Avengers maintain control.
The Avengers, they just continue to hold the zone. They almost kind of let the other team come in and get the zone because they did have 2 members down. But that gave those penalty points over to the Avengers. The Avenger, though, however, we're down to 7 penalty points here. Those penalty points are about to be gone. There goes the brush underneath the ledges, exactly like K-Bot mentioned before this, just acting as a nuisance. And that is just continuing to add to the pressure that Poltergeist cannot get out of their spawn. Finally, though, we see the crab as well as the tri-strikes coming out from Poltergeist that allowed them to come in once again, get the zone, and actually this is a really big opening for them. They're able to get down a complete wipe finally onto the Avengers. This is a big moment for them. We haven't necessarily seen them do this throughout this entire set. So as they set up paint around the zone, I'm very curious how they, try and use this advantage point that they have. It looks like they do have a member go down. Let's see if they're able to hold onto any ounce of their side of the map as the Avengers comes back in.
It was only temporary, though, as the rest of the specials come back through when the Avengers make a counter push. Almost happened before Poltergeist can fully get those defenses set up. And now, once again, Fumitoshi is here. There's 3 down into the Flora State. and we'll see this continue right underneath these ledges, this pesky brush that is so challenging to avoid and get out of the way. 2 go down to the back lines for the Avengers, make it 3 with the brush getting taken down as well, and Poltergeist now needs to quickly rush for the zone. They've gone 2 down in the process here though too, so they'll have to commit the strikes in order to try to make this play happen. And now look at this, once again entering the 1v2, gets taken down as the Avengers maintain this solid team play.
Great use of Mako, at least recognizing that they had those tri-strikes and they could at least rush forward and rush and paint the zone with the tri-strikes, use a couple slosh flicks there to paint the zone and at least cap the zone. Now, even though they did cap the zone, it's going to be really tricky for them to get out of their spawn. We see them have 2 members down, and the map is just completely purple right now. They are really having a difficult time of getting out of their spawn. We see Taco have that jump in from the brush, and they are just continuing to add pressure. They're not even hesitating. They're just jumping right into Poltergeist's spawn and not letting them move at all. They even had to use their specials to try and get out of their spawn, not even to try and cap the zone. So the Avengers there, they gave Poltergeist a little bit, but then they came back strong. They're going to take game 3, and they are going to take the set here versus Poltergeist.
And again, showing this team that is rather strong. You know, I think the more we sit here and talk about this team, the more I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. I'm starting to get the memory back of you've seen Fumitoshi play on the brush. You've seen Takobon play on a blaster or something of the sort. Xerxes has been around the French scene for some time in this support area, right? These are all players that have been around and are now coming together to form a pickup squad, play some SendouQ sets together, and are now having some very solid success here. While they might be one of the underdogs entering this tournament, this is not a roster of players that's completely foreign in nature, right? And so it's no wonder that they're able to find these keys to their victory and execute on them to the level that they are, especially when you talk about the way that their composition is designed. You know, I think one of the benefits of a heavy splatling or bamboozler or something of the sort in having Xerxes play the end zap is that the cooler player is now not also your longest range player on the team. Instead, you can utilize that long range to look for those chip damage plays around the brush like we were talking about earlier, and Xerxes can follow up with a cooler whenever it's at the ready, rather than having to rather than force your charger player with a snipe writer to play 2 separate roles at the same time. That dedicated focus and concentration, I think, is what allows this ease of execution to come through and why it looks so effortless as we see the Avengers come through and play. So it'll be interesting to see how the rest of their day goes on. As we take a look at the rest of the bracket now, EasyMD is up 2-0 over King. King Hatano Fanclub is up 3-0 over Epitaph, and Snails is 3-0 up over So What. So looks like quarterfinals is a round of sweeps across the board, almost nearly. We'll see what happens, of course, with this EasyMD match, but the level of caliber is clearly shown as the field starts to separate here, Rissa.
Yeah, I feel like all throughout today in the group stages and now here in the quarterfinals, like we can see here, there's been a lot of really, really quick games, a lot of just one team just dominating the other. But as we head into semifinals here, and then of course eventually finals, I have a feeling it's going to get a lot closer in caliber. These games are going to get so much closer. We're going to see a lot more back and forth heading into semifinals here once we get through quarterfinals.
We will be taking a look at the upper semifinal, Snails versus King Hanano Fanclub, and we have been informed that this is where the rule change happens. We are now in best of 7 matches, and we are in counter-pick territory, where game 1 will be random, and from then on, teams will be able to select any stage they desire out of the entire game, and Umami Ruins is the game 1 randomized pick here for these 2 squads. Of course, Snails should not need any introduction, reprising the name from I should have it listed what season it was. It's PXG, but they were Snails first, and then they were PXG with Jordan, and now they're Snails again without Jordan. So a little back and forth, but it's the same players you know and love. As I alluded to a bit ago, or maybe I just alluded to it in my own head and didn't actually do it on the broadcast. The players on Snails are on an incredible run as it comes to these SendouQ events. Now, part of that, sure, it probably has something to do with the fact that the North American players all have something else to do with their time rather than focus and dedicate towards SendouQ. But at this point, the combination of Gray, Goss, and Noah have won the last 2 SendouQ finale events. Goss and Noah together have won the last 3 SendouQ events, and Noah won the 2 previous to that. So with a win today, Noah will have won 6 consecutive SendouQ finale events, marking a year and a half of domination in this particular event. If that isn't, that's not a streak that just comes out of nowhere, right? These are players that have obviously played with each other for a long time, have developed a great deal of skill. And I was even going through the list. You can count on like one hand the number of times that any of those 3 players have missed the top 4 in a SendouQ finale in its entire history. Like, seriously, there is like 5 empty squares on my list that I put together for those 3 players. It's incredible to see the level of consistency that these players have been able to achieve together.
That's really cool. That's almost like, you know, when you think of like Splatoon as it's a game, it's a video game, but then when you think of like sports and just like if you are a team or even individual players just showing up consistently to play sports that they like, this is that in a sense in terms of like video games. So just them being able to consistently show up and make sure that they not only play it, but also dominate at doing it as well, I think is super, super impressive. And I haven't seen something like this in a while. So that's really cool. It almost like they have to continue playing this to just continue. Like, I don't know, if I was in that position, I'd be like, I want to keep playing this. I want to keep just being at the top of this and no one can get past me. So that's really, really cool.
Well, and, you know, in that same way, right, you're sitting there going, how will this affect Gray's legacy? When in reality, right, it's also the players around Gray that have made just an impact, even if Gray is the most vocal and perhaps the most well-known because he's been around the block time and time and time eternal in terms of Splatoon. Seriously, going back to the very beginning, early days of Splatoon 1, Gray was on one of the best French teams in the sea. So that shows you how long this player's been around for, and it's no wonder why he's going back and forth on whether or not he wants to retire. But his friends keep pulling him into this, so we still get to watch him play. And again, I think it's a testament, right, to this core group of talent that sure has seen some rotation here or there. Example, today they're playing with Yeti instead of Jordan, who's likely playing in the Splatoon 3 North American League with FT Win. But even still, right, this library of players that PXG gets to choose from, Snails gets to choose from, whatever it is, the core is still there, and the connections and how dialed in these players are with one another, their own tendencies and personalities, is a sight that is not just a pickup squad worthy caliber of name, right? That's why they're considered one of these strong teams that dominate these events over time, and it's probably one of the reasons why they're all still driven to improve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And thinking about Gray too, as a commentator and as a viewer, I've watched Gray all through Splat 2, now through Splat 3, and just his ability to adapt to who he's playing with, but also at the extremely high caliber level. I used to know Gray as a support player. Now, Gray I know as like a blaster player who plays really aggressively. Obviously, that's not the same as someone playing NZAP or Junior and just playing back and playing really supportively. So just his ability to adapt to who he's playing with, and then in this case too, Snails or PXG, they have a different members and different members switching in that obviously kind of has different team dynamics. So just the ability to stay on top, but also play around whoever you're playing with and play it really, really well is super, super impressive to me.
Now I'll blow your mind again, Rissa, because before Gray played support in Splatoon 2, he was mostly known for his Dynamo in Splatoon 1.
What? That does
So
blow my
with
mind.
Dynamo Roller coming back, I was thinking, like, this is the game where Gray is going to play it again, right? But no, hasn't favored that much at all, and I think probably for good reason, right?
Yeah.
Blaster's in a very strong state across the board, but their opponents here, King Hanado Fanclub, are really also have kind of come on the scene randomly from SendouQ, have been playing together, and again, these are players who you probably will recognize from various teams, Crowny, U-Snipe. These players have been around for some time, and finding some success together again in events like this is always fun to watch, but we'll see whether or not they're up to the task of beating this really dominant crew.
Yeah, I think I agree. I mean, we'll see. A lot of high-level players on King Hanado Fanclub, and this is essentially a team that used to be on top for a little while called Frutella. There's a lot of players on Frutella that are playing on this team, essentially. So they were really, really dominant for a while, but just, I don't know. This is where I was saying before I'm hoping in the bracket, this is where the matches start getting a lot closer. And then obviously, though, they're going up against Snails, the strongest team of all of them. Yeah. You know, I'm hoping something, but
The interesting anecdote about the past two SendouQ finale events is that the PXG and Snails team has been forced to a Game 7 in finals. So they went the distance 2 times in a row, but were able to clutch out, I think actually last season, 3 months ago, clutched it out in overtime of Game 7. So really close to not having the streak already interrupted, as it were, before it really even gets started. But here we are, we get to keep talking about them as one of the most dominant names because they didn't lose. Because probably one single team fight went their way in Game 7, which we call the clutch factor, and then they were just able to be successful because that's what the team does, right? They're just able to execute on that level so consistently. So certainly will be fun to watch. I believe we're waiting on our Area Cup streamers to get into the lobby as well, and then we will get right underway. Umami Ruins, Rissa, was our first game. What can you tell us about what we might want to expect on this stage?
Umami Ruins. With the current state of anchors, I feel like it's kind of all over the place within the game right now, so I'm not really sure what both team will bring as their anchor players. But, the rest of the team, they're going to want, specials that will allow them to help get over, since this is a double map stage. So they're going to want to be able to have specials that allow them to paint the other side of the map if they can't quite get over there, and use the distance with the weapons that they have. So taking a look at both of the teams here, speaking of different anchors, each team coming in with a different anchor. Noah having an E leader, and then on the other side for King Hanado Fanclub, they do have that heavy Splatling here with a mix of different shooters, and both teams have a blaster as well. So interesting mix of weapons here as we go ahead and start this match and take a look at how this is starting out.
Now, theoretically, an E leader probably beats a heavy Splatling 9 times out of 10. However, on this stage, the E-Leader only has like 1 or 2 places where it can really get set up. And so it'll really be about whether or not Snails can effectively protect Noah, which they so often very do. As you see Goss move up to this right side, the second that Snails sees they feel like they're going to lose this, they back on away, give the zone away, don't take a 3v4 fight altogether. And King Hanado Fanclub is starting to move forward and push their advantage. They make a 3-down situation happen and are storming up this ramp.
Wow, I really like the way that they pushed forward together. They saw that last member alive on Snails, and they didn't even hesitate. They all just rushed forward, made sure that they called out that last member as well. And now with 2 members down on Snails here, having to figure out how to regroup. And a lot of times in situations like this, if a team is kind of stuck all back in their spawn, trying to figure out how to regroup, time is ticking down. I might kind of hesitate for them and be a little bit fearful. But Snails is one of those teams that they do not let that get to them. They Gray will come back into the zone, even if the time is close, even if time is about to run out, and they will come in, get the zone back, and then they usually can set up really, really well. They almost have to get a feel for the other team that they're playing, get it dialed in, and then they know from there. But as I'm saying that, 2 members down on Snails right now. Noah here, though, still on top of the zone, guarding it and making sure that they create space for their team as they come back in.
Here comes another triple splashdown here. Blaster will get taken down in the process. Now Gray moves up along the left side. Shoot-on situation for King Hatano Fanclub. While Gray finds himself in trouble, will be forced to jump on away, in addition to one of the members of the Fanclub. So Snails will gain control of both of these zones here. Still having a difficult time really moving forward and pushing the issue. 2 trades on both sides, and so that it is a 2v2 now. And the Inkback comes out to really try to maintain presence for King Hanato here. The cooler is down now, thrown right on top of this middle stack as they try to fend and over this tug of war in the zone, but now it's the Snails cleanup we know. That's a delayed wipe there, and it enables Gray to get in this fantastic spot.
Gray there, push forward. Even though he's marked, he does not hesitate. Gray still sitting up here on this top left side of King Hanato Fanclub spawn. Marked. Man, if that was me, I would be so scared. I would be running away. I'd be like, I'm marked. But that's the difference. If you're Gray, you do not hesitate. Things like that. Now, even though Gray went down, that has allowed Gray's teammates to push forward as he was acting as a distraction. So Goss here pushed forward on this 52 gal, throwing up walls, continuing to add pressure. And now it is now King Hanato Fanclub who cannot get out of their spawn. They do not have any time here to wait to be able to come back in and get the zone.
Not quite there. It's a rush for the very end, but the Snails hold on in a true lockout fashion, and that is the nature of an E-leader, right? Continuing to set up this presence, and you talk about Gray not wanting to move backwards nearly as much. In that case, Gray stepping forward along with Goss, the 2 of them being able to work together, means that Noah is free to take the time that is needed to line up those shots. I think Noah had 2 or 3 critical splats there at the very end of that game that enabled that runaway to happen. And without Gray and Goss, and you saw eventually Yeti dive in too around that ramp, without them in those positions, Noah does not have the time to aim the shot precisely and take those key members down. So it's all a matter of how they're able to get this E-leader set up. I know I harp on it every time I watch an E-leader in any game, and I'm sure people who listen to my commentary very regularly are tired of me only focusing on how the E-leader changes the entire dynamic of the game. But I really think it's true. Like, it is such a polarizing weapon when it is in the game, and the flowchart for how you play as a team is boiled down to that very idea. And as the opponent, you have to try to find a way to dislodge that E-leader, make sure it's never comfortable to line up those shots. But Noah is so calm under pressure that it almost doesn't even matter. Anyway, Flounder Heights is the pick. Probably trying to get away from the E-leader. I think E-leader probably not as strong on this stage in particular. So not that that's going to phase Noah in particular, whether it's Snipe Rider or something else. There's going to be another thing that can be played, but I think the pick is decently wise, and they're also probably saving Urchin in their back pocket for later. So.
Yeah, totally. I agree. That was my first thought, too, when I saw Flounder Heights was the counter pick. I was like, okay, that's definitely got to be to try and stop the E-leader from either being played or at least slow the E-leader down. But yeah, like you said, it's Noah. Noah can really make anything happen. So, but I agree. I think that's a good counter pick in terms of trying to step back Snails a little bit and hinder them from playing the way that they do. Just a little bit, trying to give yourself that little bit of an advantage if you're the team against them.
Yeah, so we'll see whether or not they're going to be able to do that. Of course, in the last game, playing that heavy splatling, Wavebreaker can be useful on here, especially for its ability to catch folks off the walls. On this particular stage, we'll see whether or not that comes out. It actually has a surprising level of verticality to it, even though you may not expect that. So we're getting right on in to game 2 here as we get underway. It's still Noah on an E-leader, so the counter pick stage stage did not dissuade him one bit.
Yeah, did not dissuade him one bit. And then King Crowny there on the other side for King Hatano Fan Club, sticking with that heavy splatling as well. So I'm expecting Noah to be, I was expecting Noah actually to be not in that position, more so on the back in their spawn area and looking over the whole map. But I mean, it is Noah. Noah can play this E leader very aggressively. So who am I to say? Noah here pushed up with their team, and Gray leading the charge with this blaster, not even letting King and Auto Fan Club breathe here in the beginning. They immediately took the map and pushed forward and are adding so much pressure onto King and Auto's ramp here. And they are really, I mean, look at this, complete wipe onto King and Auto Fan Club, and a very aggressive start coming out from Snails.
One thing that I'm going to watch for the rest of this series is Gray's triple splashdown usage. He uses it very sparingly, and when he does, he uses it in a very safe position that he knows he's going to be able to get away from, and most likely, again, that another one of his teammates can follow up. He doesn't just try to rat into the enemy's back line like Goss is doing right now, and taking out the back from the behind. That's actually a huge play that's going to not really enable much of a push to happen here for King and Auto Fan Club. While they may take both of these zones, I don't know how much full setup. No, never mind. Okay, off screen, Hay goes backwards and takes out the opposing gal. So King and Auto Fan Club with a decent setup here. We'll see how Snails is going to be able to respond. Again, I'm looking for where Noah goes. Where does Goss find his entry into the play? And how can they make sure that Noah is safe here? Now starting to approach, and one member taken down right below his feet. This is going to be a very interesting play now as King Hatano Fan Club pops the ink back. Gray moving up along this right side, continuing to go for the opposing zone actually, before coming back on around and attempts to make this 1v1 fight on the bridge, but goes down in the process. Snails will hold on to, or cap the zones at least, to apply a penalty, but a King Hatano Fan Club here holding on. Gray going in for a play again, gets one direct, a second with the triple splashdown. Can he find three? No, he doesn't. Pablo is able to clean it up.
Wow. And Noah there just with that E-leader playing underneath the ledges here. That is, like, when I think of an E-leader, that's not the position I would think to be, but Noah makes it work. And now if you're Snails, you know, this is why you are against this other team that is counter-picking this map in particular. King and Auto Fan Club wanted Noah to be in that position where they were back in their spawn, trying to poke at them from the side, but Snails here, they have members coming from around both splat zones here and just poking at King and Auto Fan Club from all different angles. It's really, really a jumble here, and that seems to be the way that Snails is making this work, is they're playing really, really jumbled. They're consistently making sure that there's members on the left side of the map, on the right side of the map, and we're seeing, though, however, the map still has consistently stayed that blue color. King Hatano Fan Club has been doing a good job at trying to just consistently hold on to it. Even though they still don't quite have the lead, they have low penalty points, they're just consistently making sure that they have eyes on everything that Snails is doing as Snails tries to run on the left side of the map and the right side of the map underneath. They're just trying to come from all angles and make something work.
And one of the keys here, Rissa, is that I feel like while Snails, yes, is consistently throwing these punches, they're not really throwing them together. Gray is diving in a lot more than I'm used to seeing him do, maybe with some stage unfamiliarity or something of the sort, where he's just not able to team up the same way that he might want to and pair up to be more effective. But of course, as I say all of that, Snails is going to come back in, and now Gray storms forward, gets 2-3 now in the flow aura state. 3-down situation, single-handedly at Gray's hands, and now the blaster forced to back on away. Snails set up for a huge push here. We'll see whether or not King Hatano Fan Club can try to make a play happen. With no motion over here, has been spotted out by the opponents, and that triple splashdown is not quite going to come into a lot of effect. Here's all of the specials thrown towards the zone, the ink back, and now the shot comes out. There's the triple splashdown used, but the blaster is not able to get away. 2-down situation for actually Snails now. It's gone back and forth. The jumps coming back in from King and Auto Fan Club after this cooler. They might be able to cap these zones here and make a play happen, but Gray finding a trade will start to show cracks in the armor here as no motion's forced to jump on away, and King and Auto Fan Club cannot move up nearly to the extent they might want.
Yeah, they were able to get to the zone and they were able to cap the zones, but like you said, they weren't quite able to push forward past that much more. Snails, even though they had maybe a member or two down, they just consistently were able to hold pressure on their side of the map and not let King Hatano Fanclub in. Hey, here, using that ink vac to try and get any, last minute maybe picks, help their teammates there in the last seconds there, but didn't quite work out for them. And Snails here was able to take this game too. This was a very chaotic game for me to watch, K-Bot. I don't know about you, but there was a lot happening in that one.
I feel like there has to be some theory to this, Rissa, because for whatever reason, it feels like when PXG or Snails holds onto the zone, the time ticks faster than when their opponents do. I don't know, there's got to be some theory to that or something of sort. My goodness, the stats just came up on Gray's stream. 25 and 10 on the blaster.
Oh my!
After 5 minutes.
That's insane.
25. That is ridiculous.
God.
Yeah. Crazy stuff. Noah still only went down once, so Noah has died twice in 2 games so far in this series. Again, this is, and by the way, Gray had 16 in the last one too. So this is how Snails continues to find success time and time immemorial.
Wow. I'm still processing that second game, but we have to go ahead and start thinking forward about this next game that we're heading into. And as we can see here, this is a best of 7, so we will be headed into Urchin Underpass next as the next counter pick coming out from King Hatano Fanclub. And you were right, K-Bot. You said, I have a feeling they're keeping Urchin Underpass for a little bit later in the set. It looks like they went ahead and used it next. I think they're really trying to figure out how to hone in and figure out how to counterpick Snails in particular. And if I was them too, these would be 2 of the counterpicks that I would be picking as well.
Yeah, in this case, now Urchin Underpass coming up here. Surely we expect Noah, if there's any stage that Noah is scared of playing E-Leader on, it would be this one, right? The E-Leader usually plays around those 1 or 2 locations where you can maybe get something set up. That doesn't exist on Urchin Underpass, right? You can get run at from nearly every angle on these longer or wider, I should say, ramps that allow and really favor shorter range picks across the board. And it's just easier to make a flick shot happen on something that doesn't have that large windup time of the E-Leader. So here we go, getting into it, and we do see Noah elect to go over to the heavy Splatling here, and Crowny will match it.
Yeah, so Crowny sticking with that heavy Splatling. That must be something that King Hatano Fanclub is comfortable with. And then looking at the weapons on each team as well, actually, it's very similar in a sense. They both have that cooler weapon, Enzab versus Tri-Slosher, and then each team has a blaster and a Gal. Not quite the same Gal, the 96 versus the 52, but still a Gal nonetheless.
And here you go. You start to see the play come together. Snails send members forward and are largely able to come away successful. Goss now has snuck up behind the Inkvac user, and in tandem with a teammate will be able to take care of that. And look how far forward in front of the zone the Snails are now. The time is not ticking down to the pace of a snail in any means, as they're already halfway through that 100-point tally.
All right, halfway through, pushed forward pretty convincingly as well. They do finally have a member go down. Each team has those wave breakers out, so point sensors galore happening here on the map. That's allowing each team to have eyes on each other, and each team has been playing around that really well. They're making sure they use those point sensors to call out anyone that they can. I like that both teams are playing around that. But I mean, as I'm talking about this, look at this. Okay, triple splashdown coming out, able to take down 3. That's a complete wipe now happening onto Snails. Great play there as I just blinked, and then all of a sudden that triple splashdown happened. And that was a great opening point for King Hatano Fanclub. It's just, are they going to be able to keep this pressure and hold on to it?
It doesn't feel like it because, again, there's another member from Snails always there. Now it's Gray coming up the right side again, gets taken down, and it allows Hay to go in the flow aura state. Doesn't feel like there's going to be a lot of capitalization from it on the 96 gal. Now maybe a little movement speed when you pop the Ink Vac, but the Ink Vac has so much work to try to do with a narrow cone on this stage. It's not able to protect everyone here, and I believe that's a delayed wipeout against King Hanado Fan Club as the Snails have come right back, and again, Gray in another position, continuing to put pedal to the metal.
Yeah, wow. I mean, I'm just looking at this, trying to process if you're King Hanado Fan Club, how do you get into the zone? How do you even think about getting to the zone? You can't. It's just King Crowny left alive. That's a complete wipe, and that is going to be game here as the time runs out. King Hanado Fan Club unfortunately got completely wiped there at the end. Snails just came in, made sure that they watched all different avenues of the map there that King Hanado could even come into the map and try and get to the zone. King Hanado had that really, really good play, but I mean, Snails, with just their way to adapt to things really quickly and come back and not let things get to them, they just ended up coming back and completely dominating that.
I now have an ad, so I can't give you the stats for Game 3 at the moment, but I'll get those back to you in just a moment. Undertow Spillway is the selection encounter pick for our fourth game. That's right, folks. Best of 7 here. One more before Snails fully secure this sweep. And again, probably trying to pick a non-E-Leader favored stage. But again, right, like, I think that's the very interesting proponent of this team is even if you get them towards a short range favored stage, what do you have? Gray and Goss, both shorter range weapons right now, continuing to feed off of one another and keep up that constant pressure where you always feel like they're getting some nasty, awkward approaching angle, right? That you just can't fully respond to. That's what we've seen come out from them in that last one, and I imagine it's what we'll continue to see even on Undertow Spillway, trying to cover as much of the stage as possible.
This almost feels like it's like a Tetris match almost, where if you're against Snails, you're trying to think, okay, how do we stop the E-Leader? Okay, we were able to get the E-Leader switched to Heavy Splatling. However, now we have to figure out how to be up against the other, Gray and Goss, and even though we got the E-Leader to switch, they're still playing really good. So I don't know. It's just like all these little pieces that you really have to figure out how to piece together if you're against this team in particular. There's so many little minute things that they do well, and the other team just really can't figure out how to play against.
Game 3, Urchin Underpass, a measly 15 KA by Gray this time in that half span of a game. Goss for 10 KA, Yeti combining for 11, and Noah, once again, a singular death, has only gone down 3 times this series.
Wow. That's crazy. That's so good. That's like one of the best like anchor type things that you want to be doing, is just making sure that you're not going down, but also helping your team. Anyways, so heading into game 4 here, this could be a game as we are headed in, taking a look at the comps as well. Both teams sticking with what they know and what we've seen them play. However, the one main switch up is that Noah is switching back over to the E-Leader from the Heavy Splatling that we saw them play in the last game.
Okay, wait a minute. King Hanado Fan Club apparently ate their Wheaties just a moment ago and had some caffeine to get right back into the fight as soon as possible. Worked up the right side, took 1v1s where they needed to, and now have a strong advantage with another 2-down situation against Snails. This is going to be a pretty significant push up first. We'll see whether or not they can keep this momentum going. They really need to continue picking up the pace and make sure they call out Gray for getting overzealous with plays much like that very one. Gray going over that glass there, trying to pair up perhaps with Noah here in the back lines, but just couldn't get there fast enough to cause damage and was called out by the opponents. Now 30 ticks left here. Snails have to make a play happen, and with an anchor going down, they might be at a decent spot to do so, and the Ink Vac is now one of the only things up. Okay, Snails is going to take back control of the zone. Don't get too excited too yet, folks.
Yeah, like I said at the beginning of this, Snails is one of those teams that even if they're even a point off of winning, they do not let that get to them. They can just come back right away and just completely dominate the other team like that. That's one of the good things about high-level teams. They do not let things get to them, and that's exactly what we're seeing Snails do here. They push forward, they got the zone, and now they're pushed up past that as well. You can see they're making sure they're calling out these two members on the top right side of King Hinato. There goes those point sensors as well, and they really allow those to help them have those extra set of eyes to have those point sensors on the other team. Gray here uses that splashdown up on the top of the glass, tries to get a pick and at least help slow down King Hinato as they come into the zone, and it's quite jumbled here as King Hinato is coming into the zone slowly but surely, but it seems like Snails, they're just set. Okay, I was gonna say they were set up really nicely back and letting them come to them, but however, 3 members go down on Snails. It's just Noah left alive, forced to jump back to regroup with their teammates, and now King Hinato's looking pretty good. They're pushed forward and getting picks onto Snails as well as they come back in.
No motion on the right side, finds one, backs on away, pairs up with a teammate or grabs that tactic cooler. Now a jump to reposition here as they start moving over to the left side. Now they make the haymaker play along the left. Never mind, they don't. Pablo isn't able to make a play happen at all because the Snails recognized it, went around the other way, and are now pushing in on all fronts towards the zone. 2-down situation for both of them. Triple splashdown comes out. Noah with a great flick shot against the flaking blaster, and it's Snails retaking control by the looks of it before they can get this. There it is, penalty applied, and it's Snails holding on.
Wow, I'm really trying to, like, this game is actually so much closer than the other games that we've watched here on the stream with these two teams against each other in particular. So it's just, I'm really curious and thinking about, we're going to have to analyze it after this, but how in particular this is really that much closer than the other games. And right now, again, speaking of being much closer, we see King Hinato Fan Club in control of the zone. They start trying to push up. We saw the blaster. They're trying to get under the ledges and do what blasters do, but they consistently are able to stay in the zone and then get jump-ins as well. That's one of the things that Snails does really well, is gets aggressive jump-ins. So, okay, and we see Pablo there push forward with that vac too.
I was thinking for a moment with Yeti placing that cooler down, that was in a very aggressive position. King Hinato is able to punish that. No coolers for Snails right now, and they're able to squeeze out the lead just in the nick of time before the rest of them come back online. Perhaps it was that very cooler that made the difference in being able to take the lead here, but with 53 seconds remaining, there is plenty of time for the Snails to slowly and steadily come right on back, but there's nothing slow or steady about the speed at which Goss is flying towards them, attempts to make a play happen, gets taken down, and now Noah comes up with another shot against the heavy Splatling. Snails are holding on here. Gray is in good position. Goss is down, and now actually Yeti goes down on that right side as well, so it's just Gray and Noah online. Zone is getting flipped back to King Hinato Fan Club. They apply the slight penalty and paint the zones purple for a moment, and they'll likely be trying to hold on. If they can take another fight down to neutral, they'll take this game away.
All right, we see King Hinato Fan Club here. They're trying to set up. They know they have a member down, and they're going into the last 5 seconds of this. They are in the lead. However, Snails can easily get their penalty points over and get into the lead. So heading into overtime, able to take down Gray. That's a huge pick for King Hinato Fan Club, but they do have 2 members go down. We see no motion, and Pablo there, able to get into the zone, paint the zone, and take game 4 versus Snails.
How did no motion get that? That was an out of the air coming down from the super jump indirect shot against Gray, which was enough to get the splat, right? Like, I saw that right?
Yeah, that's what I saw.
How do you hit that? The only thing that would have been more impressive or more questionable is if it was a direct. Now, it wasn't, of course, but even still, don't know how that happened. In a 5-minute game that time, Gray only able to come up with 15, went down 12 times. And of course it buffered, so I'll have to pull up it again to see what the rest of it is. But I think you made the comment, Rissa, of how was that game actually different? And I think what King Hinato Fan Club actually was able to do was pick up the pace, right? They were able to get a little further in front of the zone and get decently well positioned before Snails could actually make a full play happen. And then on the off chance that Snails makes a mistake, which is very rare, but it does happen, every single time it was punished. by King Hanado Fan Club. Gray going in alone over the glass, easily taken down with many resources diverted to him. Yeti's cooler getting placed very far forward was eventually surrounded with a recognition from King Hanado Fan Club that they can take that out of play and force those longer respawns to squeak out that lead in the first place and make the back half of the game much easier for them to be able to play. It was all of those small little errors of perhaps the Snails getting a little too comfortable that allowed King Hanado Fan Club to come away with the game. And the reason it was more competitive again was the speed differential. They're able to team up better. They were taking the fights in front of the zones to the Snails and not letting Snails control the pace of the game. It's the team that controls the pace of the game for the longest that will come out on top, and that time it was King Hanado Fan Club. But the counter pick is in for Snails. We are now going to Mahi Mahi Resort, which is no surprise with an E-Leader player.
Yeah, definitely no surprise. And this is the first counter pick that Snails has gotten to pick throughout this entire match. So if you are King Hanado Fan Club, you got to be, taking deep breaths. Okay, this is a map that they're comfortable on. They play E-Leader really well. And like you said, K-Bot, this is an E-Leader map. So you really got to be on your game headed into this. And if they can play like they did that last match, they can continue that type of pressure and that type of play style, that type of aggressive play style. I think they can potentially do well, but they just got to be careful.
Stats from the last one. This time, standout players Pablo on the Tri-Slosher, 20-6, pairing up with No Motion, 17-12. Noah goes down 5 times in that game, more than the previous 3 combined. We head on now to the counter pick of Snails, Mahi Mahi Resort. No surprises or changes in the compositions here. It's right onto the pitch as they go out for battle, and you already start to see the presence of Noah on this E-Leader and its full reach and what it's able to control on this stage.
Wow, yeah, immediately 3 members instantly go down on King Hanado Fan Club. Noah is pushed up. This is such an aggressive position. Okay, Noah just juggling. Hey, I can get into your spawn. I'm an E-Leader. I'll just jump here and play aggressively. Like acting like a squiffer almost. That was very impressive. Okay, so King Hanado Fan Club immediately went down, but they're not letting that get to them. We're seeing them come in here, use their Ink Vac paired with the Wavebreaker as well to help them push in and get into the zone. However, they do keep getting called out. They got to play carefully. You can see, though, at least able to come in and cap the zone. That's a really, really big starting point for them to be able to make things happen.
Cooler down, back out. King Hanado Fan Club trying to make a play happen here, but there's no real ink in front of them. And now Goss once again just trying to flank around the backside, enabling Gray to come right in front of the zone and apply the pressure here right where it matters. 3-down situation as the Snails are able to make up a nasty funnel play to take out those members of the fan club and are now once again getting into position. Not as far forward as the last time, but with the cooler coming out here, I would not be surprised to see another haymaker thrown.
Yeah, you can see that they are coolered up and they're kind of waiting for the other team to use their specials that you can see on the top right there. There's 3 specials at the ready for King Hanado Fan Club. Gray rushes in and tries to divert some of those specials from being used, and that actually worked really nicely. It's just this triple splashdown that was left for King Hanado Fan Club, though they were able to come in and at least cap the zone, but the members of Snails are still there around the zone, going to be able to recap it and immediately cap the zone. And again, we're in the same position. King Hanado Fan Club back in their spawn. This is it's just the same thing over and over again. And we're really seeing, I think, why Snails has this as their counter pick. They are very comfortable on this map.
And it's also about the strengths of the composition on this particular stage, right? The Blaster and the 52 are no real short-range weapons. I mentioned them as shorter range because they were being played as shorter range on Urchin Underpass, but here they're able to team up from nearly wherever they stand across the entire width of this stage, which allows for fights to get taken to their opponents, and now they start to tick down the timer, the Wavebreaker down, but the members in the ink doesn't come out fast enough, and King Hanado Fan Club will be forced to go down to the 3rd place match for a spot at the next Global Gauntlet. It is all Snails, as we will be seeing them in 2 weeks.
Ooh, all right. That was That was a very fun set, I think. It was fun to watch King Hatano fan club slowly kind of figure out how to play against snails and figure out whether it's play styles or the counter pick maps that they pick. I think that was a fun story to watch play out. But in the end there, of course, we saw snails win that set over them. And we saw a lot of, why we know them as being such a strong team.
Yeah, precisely. It is 3-2 between EZMD and the Avengers. That one rather close, but not quite done yet. I expected that one to be at least moderately close, given what we've seen from the Avengers up to this point. Stats, by the way, in the last series: Gray 13-2, Noah 9-0. Goss only had 3 splats and assists that time around, but again played an instrumental role in being able to team up and run the distraction drill as if he's playing Inkbrush, even though he's not precisely. So fantastic stuff from Snails, as once again, many members of this team looking for a three-peat in SendouQ finale events, as we await the winner of the EZMD versus Avengers match. And we have our first team qualified for Global Gauntlet number 2. We'll remind you of what's to come in the next few weeks from the Global Gauntlet with this short video. Please take a look.
One mic left.
I'm watching left guy.
Hey, jump. They're jumping forward.
Now we're back to a fight for the zone. Both of these teams are around, but 2 down on to PXG, but grab tank.
Dead. Zone, ping. Oh, catch it. Oh.
No, dude, don't do this. Come on, yo.
Nice. Nice.
That's right, folks. Even though there's been plenty of Splatoon played in the past 2 weeks, there is plenty more to come in the next 2, with the second qualifier to Global Gauntlet number 2 taking place next Saturday, and then the following, the second Global Gauntlet, where you'll recall the Western teams actually put up a fight versus the Japanese teams. We'll see if our next iteration can get the download on those Japanese players before it turns into the full SWS series coming later in July and August. It's a lot of fun with our Summer of Splatoon that we have here in 2026, Rissa.
Yeah, there is a lot of Splatoon happening at the start of this summer, and then like you had said, K-Bot, we were talking the other day, and you're like, I have Splatoon planned every single weekend. There is so much Splatoon happening. So we're starting out good here in the Splatoon community, I think, this summer.
Abnormal for me as of late to have Splatoon like 3 out of 4 days or Saturdays in a month, but here I am back on the mic again. You're not getting rid of me in the next few weeks, and here we are getting into the last one. EZMD and the Avengers have been forced to a Game 7. So we will have to wait on those opponents, and we might be getting a live peek in set up. Not sure what the status is on that. Of course, you'll see whether or not we get gameplay in just a little bit on your screens. But I think most people, of course, entering the day today would have expected EZMD to come out on top, just because they're the team that's been around for 2 or 3 years that have placed pretty well in SendouQ finale events going back some time. And the Avengers was a relatively new squad, although again, like I mentioned earlier, if you go back into the roster, you've seen these names before. And while they may not have been around very much for Western players in recent times, certainly here they've been able to prove themselves not only in the qualifier event last week, but additionally here today. So we'll see what comes of that as we get into it. Game 7 is Crab Leg Capital. The Avengers have won the last 2 matches, or the last 2 games in this series. And so we'll be seeing if we can get in there at all. And some of these, we've been seeing the scores come through our production channel. Some of these, Rissa, have been really close, including Game 6 on Barnacle and Dime. A knockout to 5 points away was the difference between these 2 teams in Game 6. They're loading in to Game 7 now.
Wow, I'm looking at the we can see, like K-Bot said in our production chat, the different scores back and forth, and I feel like it's pretty consistent throughout their entire scores against each other in the game that they are against each other right now. So I think that's definitely quite the set happening, and hopefully we're able to jump in and take a look at that. I think I hear Splatoon music in my ears. I think we're gonna be able to hop in.
Well, it's probably getting set up for the back end, so again, it's going to be a little scuffed in the interim, but it'll happen eventually by the sounds of it. They are already underway, and of course, didn't wait for our actual observers to get in, but we have somebody else in the lobby right now, so hopefully we'll be able to get that in to you. Looks like early here, it is EZMD getting set up first. Although it was a wipeout that has come through altogether, the Avengers are starting to build up their play right on back. So more to come here. No, actually, we're just going to get right in. All right, there we are. And you see exactly what I was talking about. Minute into the game here, the Avengers starting to build up their presence. EZMD, though, 2 down situation. The zip cast comes through from Silver. Now 3 down, and there's the delayed wipe.
All right, I'm taking a look here. Okay, so again, like we were talking about in the production chat, we got to see what the scores were for the previous games, and they were really close. And that's exactly what we see as we head into this Game 7. These scores are so close. Anything can happen as this match continues on. So pushing up really aggressively, EZMD tries to not let the Avengers come out of their spawn, but you can see that they're pushed up and poking at them from under the ledges there. Devin that gets a really nice snipe with that E-leader, gets another nice snipe. You can see that Devin is watching wherever their team is playing. They're making sure that they point that laser in that exact direction, and that allows them to catch people off guard, get really nice picks with that, and points are counting down right now. K-Bot, is the Avengers going to be able to get into the zone?
Hammer throw makes its mark, and now they have to start moving in now and get the purpling down. They barely are able to neutralize in time, and they apply the penalty to extend the game. 2 down situation now for EZMD as we start to see them come back in. Fumitoshi able to clean up on the brush now. Taco Bon 2 down. Triple splashdown comes out for added security, and now Fumitoshi feels like playing with his food, throwing the ultra stamp a little bit delayed. The Avengers set up very well, but again, do they have the range to contend with Devin on the E-leader? How are they going to be able to respond and make sure that that E-leader can't get set up? Here comes Silver flying in on this upcast again, gets taken down. 2 down, 3 down now as the Avengers are holding strong in this spot. They have potential here to take this game away.
Okay, I'm taking a deep breath. We're heading into this, and as it was EZMD's chance to be able to set up, to use specials, to get into the zone, to use those specials, to push in, that is essentially a complete wipe, and just in the nick of time there, at the last possible second, they weren't able to get into the zone, and now, whoo, K-Bot. The Avengers wins versus EZMD. That's a big feat, with EZMD being the 2nd seed of this tournament.
EZMD very consistently, like I said, have been hitting their mark, but I think the Avengers, a squad that have come together, played the minimum number of SendouQ matches to get them into the tournament in the first place, and qualified through the qualifier last week, and now are going to have to face up against Snails themselves. This is quite the feat, as you mentioned, of course, for a roster that likely hasn't been playing together for all that often, but even still, right? As we mentioned, I am not shocked. Like, I don't think the tone of voice we should be using here is complete and utter surprise and bewilderment. I'm not even sure if I would call this an upset. Maybe it's a slight one, but I don't think it's that strong of one once you get familiar with these players, and especially the way they're playing this weekend. They certainly have come to play, and we'll see whether or not they will do the thing that has been known from previous PXG and Snails appearances here, pushing, and whether or not the Avengers can push the Snails all the way to a Game 7 in finals as well.
Yeah, that's a great point to bring up. I mean, we saw the Avengers. If you were here with us when K-Bot and I first got on the commentary and we watched the Avengers play against another team, they were playing super dominantly. They were playing almost to the same way that Snails kind of, even if Snails, you know, is losing and it doesn't look like they're going to be able to get into the zone, all of a sudden they make something happen and then win the entire game. I feel like that's the same exact play style that the Avengers has as well. They don't let little things get to them. They can still turn things around and, you know, take a deep breath and be able to play against the other team. So I feel like these two teams have similar play styles, and I think that really, really will be fun to watch here as we headed into finals too, and see how they adapt to each other.
I think one of the other keys here is just how well we've watched the Avengers play with one another. If Snails are not careful and approach the way that we have seen them do in the past few, I could very easily see a world where the Avengers are able to find consistent 2v1s, 3v1s against Snails, isolating each one of those individual members before the Snails can fully recognize and realize what's happening, and be able to fully capitalize and punish and continue applying pressure as the game moves along. Game 1 here is once again our random pick back to Umami Ruins. We'll see what that holds for our teams here. And again, right, the interesting part here is we are going to be seeing the E-Leader matchup come out again. It will be Noah again. We expect to see that E-Leader come through against no real Bamboozler as the back line of the other team, right? So this will certainly be a true treat to watch.
Yeah, that's like two completely, you know, separate play styles. Bamboo, of course, going to be playing really chip damagey, can push up with their team, play aggressively. But of course, on the other side, Noah, even though Noah is playing E-Leader, typically a weapon that you would stay back and use that range to help your teammates from afar, Noah can also play that E-Leader super aggressively. So two different play styles in terms of what the anchors are, but I feel like with the way that the two teams can play really aggressively and adapt to things, I think that'll be really interesting. And you highlighted too, I think that's a great point to bring up. You know, we've seen Snails have little moments where Gray and Goss and Yeti get separated, and that's kind of where things fall apart for them. So if they are able, if you're on the other side and you're the Avengers, I feel like the Avengers is one of the only teams today that can really call them out if they're playing off like that and really call out those individual plays instead of the team plays that Snails can play really good. So I think that's going to be something to highlight and take a look at as we head into this.
So we'll see what comes through here as we get everyone loaded into the lobby. I believe it looks like we're missing one. So hopefully that will come in shortly, and we'll get this one underway. I think this one's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I think the past few SendouQ finales have had incredibly fun to watch finals matches, and I expect this one to be no real different entering the day, as we've kind of mentioned, right, with these teams and how they've gotten to this point. It's the defending champions, of course, in Snails, Goss, Gray, and Noah, working for a three-peat with a win here. And of course, we'll see whether or not this Avengers team can upset that. It's the Avengers playing off against the West Avengers in this case, or what it has felt like up to this point, certainly.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, whew. And then I'm thinking about too, I was talking about, you know, EasyMD, of course, the other team that has usually been a really strong contender within SendouQ finals. It just feels like today, you know, the Avengers, I think, can really call out Snails, and just from what we saw with the way that they were playing earlier on the stream, and with that last set that went all the way to a game 7, we saw in the last set game here on the stream, you saw that they were able to just adapt to things really quickly and just play really fast the same way Snails does. So we're waiting here, headed into Umami Ruins, that first default map that we are going to see these two teams on. And honestly, I'm trying to like think about what I'm expecting from them, and I don't know. That they're both play so fast paced. They can adapt to things really fast. They, all of the above. Everything high level you can think of, they can both do. So I have no idea what to expect heading into this first game.
I think the most interesting thing to watch in higher level Splatoon, whether it be here in the West or even truer across the pond, is the speed at which the players are not only able to provide attacks and counterattacks, but are also able to link up together to do that, right? I think what we've seen out of Snails is we've seen a decent chunk of that, but we've also seen times where their timing with one another is slightly off and is opened up some windows of opportunities for previous teams to take advantage. Now, whether or not that's them getting a little lazy and thinking that they can just win because they've already won game 3, so how hard is game 4 going to be? Or whether or not it's something that's actually true and something they'll have to consciously think about and combat, because you'll watch the Avengers and they're right there. And like I said in the quarterfinals match, I think part of that is enabling and that dedicated support player with Xerxes on an NZAP enables your longer range threats to pair up very nicely with your shortest range threat, rather than trying to worry not only about how you're slowing down sight lines, but also getting up for that cooler, making sure there's paint on the floor, all of those sorts of things. And their delineation of roles is in some part what makes that bamboozler feels like it has more range than it actually does, right? Because they're able to move quickly, because they're able to focus on one thing in particular and support Fumitoshi at all costs on that brush. That is where the key for success is here. So gonna be a lot of fun to get into this one. We're just 30 seconds away, actually probably less than that if our observers go ahead and ready up here at some point soon. We're gonna get into this one. It's the finale of the season 11 SendouQ finale here. I said finale of the finale, but that's never mind. To the point. No real surprises in terms of compositions here. Let's play ball.
All right, let's play ball here. Snails versus the Avengers. I am taking a deep breath because I have a feeling this is going to get really chaotic and really fast-paced. So looking at this initially, Cooler comes out from the side of Snails and also on the side of the Avengers. Again, I mean, I was saying that these two teams are probably going to be playing pretty similarly, and it's starting out that way. Both teams coolered up. Both teams have a member go down, and we're seeing that fight for mid happen here. Noah helps secure this left side, and Snails initially here being very dominant, taking control of the zone, pushing forward as well. And now you can see, even though the Avengers is coming back from their spawn, they still at least have that top right ramp area, which I think is really crucial to at least have control of. They're using specials as well, as we see this whale come out, and now they are coolered up too. So paired with all of those specials, let's see if they're going to be able to come in and get the zone.
Looks like struggling even still. 2-down situation at this point. The Snails have taken a defensive position here, backed up a little bit, but still have plenty of area and breathing room for Noah, who's even getting a little more creative there, sneaking up along the right side and getting a cheeky pick, but now gets taken down themselves. Taco Bon in the area, but the rest of the team gets taken down in the process, and the Snails with a 100-0 statement up first.
Wow. I'm sitting here just like, what Whoa, I was expecting that to be a lot closer than it was. Snails starting out extremely dominant this first game. They had an absolute read on the Avengers. It didn't seem like the Avengers was really able to set up and make anything happen. So heading into the second game, it's now going to be the Avengers counter pick. So this is where we start getting into that territory of maybe we can start adjusting things as the set goes on. If you're the Avengers, you start counter picking either maps that you like and your team does really well on, or that Snails you think maybe might have a disadvantage on. So maybe that first game they just got a read on Snails. Maybe that will allow them now to move forward and be able to adapt to that. Or was it just Snails just going to be absolutely dominant throughout this set? We're going to have to see.
Hard to see. I think, again, I hate to do it. E-leader setup differential there for Snails. They have plenty of area around Noah. Noah has more than enough time to set up shots, and the only time that really collapsed was in the last 10 ticks of the timer for the splat zone there, where that started to fall apart and Noah got taken down first, and then you started to see the presence. But with enough rest of the members of the Snails around, and the fact that the Avengers were pushing for a last-minute play, it was more challenging for them to fully come together. In the last one, Yeti is the standout score line. 10 splats and assists, 0 deaths. Noah has gone down once, Goss down once, and Gray down twice. So single-digit team deaths in the last one as we load into Game 2. Of course, you guessed it, it's Urgent Underpass.
Yeah, I feel like this is the classic, one of the classic maps that you're going to be counter picking against Snails in particular. And then I feel like too, we watched the Avengers play on this when you and I first started commentating here on the stream, and I feel like the Avengers also, not only is it a good counter pick for Snails, but the Avengers played on it really well with that bamboo. So I think maybe a combination of the two things can potentially help them set up to do better in this game than they did in that first game versus Snails.
Yeah, so we've seen this stage come up multiple times over the course of the day. We've seen both teams find a decent level of success on it. And a previous one, right, with Noah switching over to the heavy splatling, Gray and Goss really got their time to shine with being able to set foot on the opponent ramp and just run right in there, continually applying that pressure. But of course, on the other side, if the Avengers get well set up, they're going to do much the same thing with Fumitoshi, Takobon continuing to be those frontline aggressive threats, and probably even go deeper than you might expect or see in other cases. And I will rewind back to what I said earlier. It's all about this brush being right underneath this edge, feeling like they are impossible to dislodge or take down without forcing the drop. That is exactly what the mission is here for Fumitoshi as we get into this one, Game 2.
All right, Game 2, Snails versus the Avengers in finals here. And we've previously seen Snails have Noah switch over to the heavy splatling on this map in particular, so we are seeing that switch over happen again. And then of course on the other side, the Avengers sticking with the bamboo. Other than that, the rest of the comp is looking the same as we've previously seen from each team. Of course, each team having a blaster, each team having the end zap as well, and then in this case Snails of course having Goss on that 52.
Already seeing the Snails get the first laugh again early. Takobon on that side, getting taken down in the triple splashdown. Fumitoshi pops the Ultra Sap, trying to just find Eddie play, but the Snails are playing so well together that the single approach is not going to work here. And we're already halfway to the knockout at this point, with Goss in position to approach on the right side and try to draw some fire. Maybe enable a possible opportunity for Gray to step forward. No, electing not to do that just yet. Okay, never mind. Does do it with the triple splashdown coming out. That's a 3-down situation now for the Avengers. Everyone has to jump right on back in to the Bamboozler here, but with 9 ticks remaining, it's going to be a full-on dive for the zone. Takobon gets taken down, and now it's just the Bamboozler again. They get taken down as well, and the Snails now on 2 consecutive pretty convincing knockouts are well ahead in our final match.
Wow, Snails, they are starting out so dominant in this set for finals, and I honestly thought it was going to be a lot closer versus the Avengers, like we were talking about before this went on. I mean, I'm really trying to sit here and process, because I feel like we've seen the Avengers previously play super well, super aggressively, play around that brush super well, just have the chip damage and just make sure they play team fights well. And it's just Snails, they're just not letting them blink. They're just not letting them even breathe. They're not letting them get into the zone at all.
Once again, Yeti silently coming up with another 10-0 score line. 2 consecutive 10-0s with knockout fashion from the NZAP player of Snails. Certainly, we talk much about the prestige that Noah, Gray, and Goss have built up in these events up to this point, but Yeti is playing a very important and key role here as well so far. Also playing that NZAP, enabling Noah to play that anchor presence and really focus on shutting down those longer and having that longer range presence across the board. But yeah, I mean, I think what it comes down to for the Avengers is whether or not they're going to be able to find their way to regroup, right? The Snails are a team that plays very tightly together, and it's very challenging for those solo plays to come out. It feels like they're getting staggered much the same way that other teams would against any other opponents. I'm sure those of you that have played have felt those moments where you just watch your teammate run in, then you say, no, I can make that play happen, and then you run in and it doesn't work then either, right? Mm-hmm. You're entering consistently into these 2v1s, 3v1s. I thought it was the Avengers that were going to be able to bring that to Snails, but instead it's Snails taking that to the Avengers. So we'll see whether or not that balance shifts. As I've heard, the counter pick has come in again. It is Wahoo World this time. Interesting play. There's still plenty for the E-leader to come out here, but I guess there's more room for the brush to run around.
That's a good point to bring up. Definitely the brush is going to be able to sneak around the different flanks underneath, up top, a little bit better, and probably a little bit safer, like you said. Even though the E-leader can play well here, I think that brush is going to be able to hide better and not get sniped quite as easier as they might on different maps. So maybe that is something to highlight and think about as we head into this.
Also, of course, worth noting, both blasters are going to have plenty of a field day around those ledges. And given Wahoo World's geometry, if we can see Fumitoshi get into those positions right underneath those ledges where that brush really wants to be and survive, that will be one of the keys where you might think that a strong E-leader presence setup will work. Well, that strong brush presence we've seen work much the same way for the Avengers earlier in the day today. We'll see whether or not they can find it here, because they're going to need to pick up the pace and pick up the pace quickly in our best of 7. It's Snails up 2-0, attempting to go, many of their players attempting to go for their three-peat. No real changes here whatsoever. Actually, no, there is one. Tagobon electing for the 52 gal instead of the blaster.
Interesting. Okay, I think that'll be really helpful, though, especially against an E-leader in particular, going to be able to throw up walls, not only protect themselves, but help protect their teammates and just act as that extra line of defense against that E-leader. So I see the vision. Let's see as this match continues on if that comes to fruition. Taco there pushes forward, acts aggressively with that 52. Whoa. Speaking of, gets 2 members down on the side of Snails and is able to play around these corners with the 52. Unfortunately, pushes a little bit past the wall and gets called out, but I mean, that was at least able to help create an opening for their teammates. And here's that brush underneath, trying to think about flanking, trying to watch. Also, I was watching the brush underneath, was going to go ahead and flank, but saw that Gray was flanking there on the bottom right side, so was able to run over, call that out really quickly. And now here we are in a position where the Avengers finally has an upper hand. They're in control of the zone. They do have the lead as well, and they're playing with the weapons for this map in particular really, really nicely. So as they continue to count up points, hopefully they're able to continue this aggression and this momentum here against Snails.
Tactical cooler down now from Xerxes as the rest of the Snails are coming into the zone. We see the triple splashdown come out, but actually 2 members of the Snails are going to get taken down in the process. Avengers have possibility of regaining control here with Takobon in the area, and a pick from Noah, I would suppose, takes him down before he's able to flank around the backside. 2 down now for both teams as they're each trying to make plays towards the zone. Gray steps forward just into enemy ink, and the Wavebreaker goes down from Noah to try to buy some more time for the rest of the Snails to get back into position, as it looks like the fight's not all over yet. Re-engagement coming in just a moment, especially as Gray is jumping back in and now coolered up and at the ready. We'll see what play actually happens, but they're holding their horses for a moment. Meanwhile, Fumitoshi runs around the backside, gets quickly taken down, but now Takuban's in the area, also is going to get taken down. So the threat not going to work here from the Avengers. Snails starting to step forward, but they're doing it slowly. Noah getting set up here on this right side, now has to try to make a play, gets one against the heavy Splatling, now going down to Fumitoshi, not going to be able to find that, but even still, it's the Snails now finally having control, truly this time, moving at a snail's pace, but it's worked for them today.
It has worked for them, and this game in particular, they are just making sure that they are playing carefully. They recognize that they needed to step back, take a breath, and really figure out how to approach the other team in particular. And as long as they're keeping the brush and the 52 down on the side of the Avengers, it looks like it's working out well for them. Those are 2 of the main threats and poking points that are really making things happen for the Avengers. So heading into the last 15 remaining points here, the Avengers really has to push forward, making sure that they cap the zone. They at least just need to cap the zone. You can see everything is thrown into the zone right now from both sides. The Avengers there, they right as the time ended, you can see they were able to get half of that zone painted purple, but not quite able to get there in time. Snails taking this game 3 versus the Avengers, but the Avengers, we definitely saw some signs of life from them, so we still have one more game. This is a best of 7, remember, so one more game for this, the Avengers to make something happen versus Snails.
The Avengers took half the zone and got 3 splats at the very end of the game, right as the whistle blows. Come on, so close, but not quite this time. They're able to come out on top of that one. And again, right, I think it's really grand awareness from Snails. We've complimented their speed historically, but in that case, they elected not to give any ground away. When we saw the Avengers take control of the zone, at the point where Noah came back in from the respawn after that play, Noah didn't have to back away like ever, right? It was constant pressure, constant protection, and utilizing all the resources you have, including when your teammates are down and not able to protect you, taking the Wavebreaker instead. That was one of the keys there that enabled the push to get set up, and that slow but steady presence, it feels like the cold front moving through on the weather map, slowly suffocating out the rest of the team, moving across the zone and laying down the ink where it's needed. So props to them for coming out here. And now one final counter pick from the Avengers to attempt to turn around momentum in this match. It is Brinewater Springs, their selection.
Brinewater Springs, interesting. I remember when Splatoon 3 started, this was in my head one of the, I considered it like an E-liter map, so it's very interesting thinking about the Avengers having this as their counter pick, but I'm sure that was at the beginning of the game. That we are later in Splatoon 3's lifetime, and I'm sure the meta has changed, and I think what really worked for them in that last game for their counter pick was being able to counter pick around having the brush. So if they're going into this next one, maybe they're thinking about what can we help to pick that will enable our brush to be able to make things happen, because that's what really helped them in that last game that got really close versus Snails.
Certainly, and so we'll see if they can bring this one back around. No, not impossible by any means here, right? We've watched the Snails squirm. They lost game 4 in their semifinal match. We've seen players we've seen teams that they've put together with the same core also get taken to a full 7 games in former finals matches in this very tournament series. But of course, it has been Snails dominant not only today, but dominant across the entirety, it feels like, of recent SendouQ history. 3 members are going for a three-peat. All of these players have won this event at least once before, and they're looking to add another one here today. Will the Avengers be able to slow down the steamroll and momentum, or is it just another part of the domination story out of the Snails?
All right, so heading into game 4 here, this could be a game for the entire tournament today to see who wins this. So taking a look at comps, looking like, okay, taking a look, both teams sticking with what we've previously seen them play. No big switch ups. So these teams are both comfortable with the weapons they play. It's just the map that they have to play around. It's just the different play styles and team fights that they have to take, and really just play styles that they have to work around. So heading into this, let's go ahead and see who can get an upper hand first.
Slight pushback here, Rissa. Smallest of adaptations, but a 96 gal is out with an ink back. We'll see whether or not Takobon can get into position to fully support Fumitoshi. And here early, it does look like the Avengers are able to be successful. Meanwhile, towards the zone, the anchor gets taken down as it looks like the flank comes through from Goss and was able to deal damage on the back lines, interrupting the stability of this hold. And once again, the Snails are coming right on back. Takobon pops this ink back, is looking to try to just regain some control and likely start playing with the rest of the team to escort into position. And now you see them team up, collapsing on this left side. It's a 2-down situation now, and they start to have more control in mid.
All right, and this is exactly what I was thinking too with the brush on this map in particular. Oh, nice pick with the hammer onto Gray, but that brush able to push up in the other team's spawn and just kind of shark around, play under the ledges, act as a distraction almost too in that sense, where that brush is really going to help the Avengers play. And it's looking like that's working out nicely for them so far, but we will have to see. Snails, of course, we know that they can adapt to things very quickly and make things happen without even hesitating. So here we're seeing them do exactly that. They are pushed forward. They are now in control of the zone, and they've taken down 2 members of the Avengers. The Avengers now in their spawn. They do have one special at the ready. Let's see, though, if they're able to hold that together and use those to come in and get the zone back.
This interruption play from Fumitoshi here, taking down Noah on the back lines and not allowing the Snails to fully get set up. Although that said, the rest of the Snails seemed like they held the front line pretty strong as the Avengers were trying to make a push happen with the ink back to the 96 gal, but it didn't fully come to fruition. And now the Snails are again in control, and it feels like, as I said earlier, the timer ticks down even faster when they have control. They do now, and they're just 30 ticks away from becoming, some of them becoming plenty more time champions of this event. Now 20 as we see the vac come out again from Takobon. The shot fired towards Noah. It explodes on top of the zone, but there's no real follow-up from the rest of the team. Here's Fumitoshi, throws the ultra stamp and might take down 1, but trades his own life. It's 2 down now for the Avengers here. Goss goes forward and now is in the flow. Aura State is going to drop back, paint the zone, get right back into the action, clean up the rest of the members here. And so while the penalty might have been applied, it's still all Snails control, and God of Splat is going on a roll.
God of Splat indeed is not letting the Avengers even think about getting into the zone. Paired with Gray jumping in consistently, adding pressure along with that as well. Goss just throws up walls, uses the main weapon too, and finally gets called out there on the right side. But is that enough time for the Avengers to come into the zone and cap it? You can see they're using any specials that they have. They use that ink back, and just enough ink is barely able to get onto the zone. Penalty points again thrown onto Snails' time, but there is not a consistent hold that the Avengers has been able to have.
They're hanging on for dear life, Rissa, but that's about all you can do, I think, at the moment, if you're playing up against the Snails and they've had your number up to this point in the match. But Fumitoshi comes up with 3, and that could be the momentum swing that the Avengers finally need. They've got to try to find where Goss is. Coming in on the flank angle, is spotted out now, especially with that locator, and is going to get taken down before the rest of the Snails can come on back in. Meanwhile, Takobon approaching with the ink back on this left side. Gray has gone down yet again as well to Fumitoshi's brush. And there's a moment of opportunity here for the Avengers to make their play known. Once again, it's the Ultra Stamp here, tries to go for the throw. Now it's going to get taken down. 2 down for both teams now. It's just Noah and Yeti for Snails as the Wavebreaker comes down and the rest of the Snails are approaching in from spawn. They get enough ink on the zone and they apply the penalty, taking back control and neutralizing the rest of the game. 3 down now for the Avengers, and once again, the Snails have control.
Ooh, taking a deep breath here, headed into the last 13 seconds of this, and if Snails is able to hold on to the zone, which they likely will be able to, they're going to win the entire tournament today. A little bit of purple pink is on the zone, but that's a complete wipe onto the Avengers. Snails able to get a complete wipe, paint the zone there, and in the last possible seconds there is able to just get the zone. And with the wipe, they're able to win this, go 4-0 over the Avengers, and win today's SendouQ finals.
I was hyping up the possibility of a 7-game series in finals, but alas, the Snails shut it down again and reassert themselves as some of the most storied players, not only in this tournament series, but that Western Splatoon has seen in some time. In that last one, finally, it felt like everyone from the Snails got activated and on board. I want to call out, obviously, right, I've been hyping up Goss, Gray, and Noah for now being 3-peat consecutive SendouQ finale champions. But Yeti joining them today in this finals match contributed, hold on a second, I have to do math for a moment, 51 splats and assists in finals alone.
Wow.
Across 4 games. If that's not impressive and not also MVP worthy, I don't know what precisely is in finals. Everybody plays at the highest caliber when you're talking about watching any form of PXG, Snails, what have you, when they're able to come together. That's one of the reasons why they're so dominant. Everyone understands their role and plays it to perfection, and that's what you were able to watch here today.
Yes, definitely. I mean, and the Avengers, they seemed like they were starting to really get a grasp to figure out how to play versus Snails as we saw that match go on. But unfortunately for them, Snails really also was doing the same thing, I think, and was really also knowing, okay, even though the Avengers is going to do this, we know to do this instead. And so just Snails, PXG, again today on top, like you said, as always, amazing players currently within the scene and did a great job today for the SendouQ finals.
It's a second SendouQ finale championship for Yeti. It is, hold on, let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for Gray. Also 5 for Goss, and now Noah on 6 in a row at the top of the table here in SendouQ for a year and a half. My question is whether or not this team will be able to make it to 2 years of consecutive dominance or something of the sort, because if they win next time, it will be a full year for that specific trio getting the job done. But I believe that's going to do it from us here today. Of course, if you want to watch more high-level Splatoon, there is plenty more action, not only happening today, but for the rest of the week as well, as we gear up for the second global gauntlet before the Splat World Series later in the summer. And of course, we're going to send you all now to Atlanta, Georgia, where MomoCon is continuing, and some players there you might recognizing, including Moonlight and other teams of the sort. So there's plenty more Splatoon if you're still starved for it. But folks, that'll do it from us here. Congrats again to the Snails, in case it needs to be said any more than it already has. They are your SendouQ Season 11 champions.